Good evening and welcome to the February 16th meeting of the Scarborough Town Council. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilor Alquist.
Here.
Councilor Holbrook.
Here.
Councilor Sullivan.
Here.
Councilor DeAndrea.
Here.
Councilor Rancourt. Here. Councilor Wood.
Here.
Council Chair Roy.
Here. Next item is general public comments. Again, is 3-minute allotment of time, and we're going to hold to that and not exceed the 30 minutes because we have a lot of items on the agenda tonight. So with that, are there any comments from the public? Please state your name and your address.
Hi, Janice Parenti, 345 Pleasant Hill Road. And I'm coming up right now because I haven't seen my kids in 3 days, so I'm going to talk now and probably will get going. But I have 3 things I wanted to talk about. The first thing was at the non-action item, on the parking lot this evening. I've seen this proposal before. It seems like it's progressed a little bit since the presentation that was made to the council a few weeks back. And I was just wondering whether there will be a vote on the council at any time before anything gets implemented, what the actual process is for this, what will happen after tonight with the proposal. That's basically it on that. My second item is just a quick one. The banning of the parking on the side streets down at Higgins Beach. One of the meetings, we did bring up a question, and I never heard that question answered. Construction vehicles, where will they be parking going forward? Going up and down the streets? That's what I'm seeing now. I know there's been no enforcement on the streets at this point with all the snow, but just curious if we can get that question answered. Where will the construction vehicles be parking? The final thing I wanted to talk about tonight was a few weeks ago, someone told me about an interactive GIS site, GIS map that's located on the tax assessor's page of the Scarborough Town website. The neat thing about this map is that the tax lines are actually overlaid onto the map. So you can see all the property lines and the streets and the homes that are there. I blew it up on Bayview to see Bayview between Pearl and Champion Street because that's the part on Bayview where we're looking at parking. The first thing that jumped out at me was that clearly between these two streets, the width of the road, or the width that the town actually owns is 60 feet. And I had been looking for that. I'd heard that number. I'd been looking for it, but it was interesting to actually see it on this map. 60 feet. And to put that in perspective, in the one-way area, in the one-way directional part of Bayview, there's a 20-foot pavement, and at a 60-foot width of town ownership, that means 20 feet on each side. And for coastal ownership, that's an amazing amount of coastal property there. The next thing I noticed on that map, and it's very clear, is that a lot of the homes that are along this way on both sides have structural walls that are actually either on the property line or that exceed the property line. I wasn't quite sure, actually, of the relevance of that to this parking situation. It didn't seem right, but I wasn't really sure at that point. Until I went down there. I went down there and I looked at it, and taking into consideration that these walls were actually sitting on the property line, what I noticed was that there were vehicles parked in front of these properties. And it made me see that these vehicles are on driveways that are completely in the public way. Thank you, I will finish up. That are completely in the public way. So it made me think, well, are we actually giving this coastal property away to the property owners, or are these driveways actually in illegal spots? Or to put it another way, on the left-hand side of Bayview, beach users are parking illegally at this point, and these homeowners, they could be renters, they could be families or friends that are staying in the house, are parked legally or not illegally at this point. I was just wondering if someone could comment on the status of these driveways going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you're intending to speak, if you could queue up, that would expedite time.
Thank you, David Kane, Newcomb Ridge. I've commented a couple times on the safety issue on the summer parking at Higgins Beach. I want to make just a small comment tonight and a suggestion. Mr. Hall was good enough to share the language with me that is the proposal for the amendment tonight, which would extend the off-season parking on Bayview at Higgins Beach. I've read through that. It's a proposed change, as I understand it, to 2B3i. I think if you look at that, that's actually going to, both 2i and 3i will now address off-season parking on Bayview, and they'll be in conflict the way they read right now. So what I think you need to change is 2i, which is the operational provision on the parking on Bayview. If you do that, if that's correct, I guess my request is, could you add a sunset provision to B2? The reason for that is there's been a lot of concern about safety with street parking on Bayview. We're in uncharted territory. There's been no prior parking on this street. There is concerns about the safety report and whether it's adequate, and everybody is going to study in the next year how this works. And there's a commitment to get back and address this again a year from now. And I think the fair way to make sure everybody with a level playing field looks at this parking situation a year from now after it's been studied is if this Bayview parking clause was effective for a year, there was parking for a year and people would address it, but you'd have an opportunity a year from now to either continue it or to not continue it. So I think Section 2 needs to be addressed in any event, and it seems to me a sunset clause in that provision will be a fair compromise, so we got back to this issue a year from now. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing no other comments. Minutes of the January 19th regular meeting.
Move approval as the new copy.
Is there a second?
Second.
Errors, corrections, or omissions? Council DeAndrea.
On page 15, this would be in reference to the main motion from last week to the amendments to Chapter 601 Traffic Ordinance regarding parking restrictions. It says the vote is 6 yeas, and actually it was 5, how was that? 5 yeas, 1 nay. I was the dissenting vote.
And the votes are listed on page 16. If you look at the revision copy that you received tonight, that's corrected already.
Nope, actually, it's not. I'm looking right at it.
Yeah, it does say still on the revision 6 yeas on page 15.
Oh, on 15, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It is correct on 16. Okay.
Yep. Any other errors,
I don't have
corrections,
16.
or omissions?
I skipped. I go to 17. Okay.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
All right.
Thank you. Adjustments to the agenda, are there any adjustments to the agenda? Hearing none, items to be signed, treasurer's warrants, I have signed those already this evening.
Order number 11-5 is a 7 p.m. public hearing and action on the new request for a massage therapist license from Bridget K. Carver, working at Tranquil Massage located at 153 U.S. Route 1, Suite 6.
I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody who would like to comment on the request for massage license? Hearing no comments, I'll close the public hearing.
Move approval?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Thank you.
Under old business, order number 11-6 is act on the request to reconsider order number 10-104 in part regarding only subsection BIII, which is on all other areas of Bayview Avenue, there shall be no parking at any time.
Madam Chair, point of order, please.
Public,
Okay.
Mr. Holbrook.
Dave Green, I live at 135 Beech Ridge Road. I don't know who knew what when, but to make an argument that Bayview is too narrow to park on, when in reality it's a 60-foot wide road, just to put that into perspective, when you come into the town of Scarborough out of Saco, it's a 4-lane highway with a sidewalk, and that's 60 feet. Go down to Jones Creek, East Grand Avenue, and Pine Point. There is more than adequate amount of room that this town owns to have all kinds of parking in Higgins Beach on Bayview, Ocean, and Greenwood. So to make an argument that there isn't enough tarred road down there to park is ludicrous. And the safety issues of this have already been put aside. Bayview is not a boardwalk. Want to go to a boardwalk, go down south, they got all kinds of them. It's a public highway. Kids don't belong out there on skateboards, walking along the side of the road by themselves. You want to fix it? Let's fix it, but let's fix it right. Let's make it a wide enough road. We can travel down there, and there's plenty of parking. You're only going to get 60 parking spaces out of your whole new parking lot. I'll bet I can come up with 60 parking spaces if you go down there to Higgins Beach and eliminate all the encroachment that's happened down there. Go down and take back what this town owns. It's the town's property. Just because you go down there and tar 26 feet of it and don't push the wings back in the wintertime, there's plenty of room to park. So I will give the council a year to sit down. They want to go back and review it. That's fine. But look at the facts. And nobody ever mentioned the fact that Bayview is 60 feet wide. You can do a whole lot of things with a 60-foot wide road. But don't tell me that we can't park on Bayview. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I wonder if it's more appropriate that my point of order be heard before we continue to hear from the public on what I believe might be an inappropriate discussion.
Council Wood.
All right, thank you. My point of order is the fact that what we have before us, I believe, is not procedurally correct. It's a reconsideration of part of a motion that was made at our previous meeting. In fact, it speaks to 3B III, and the minutes do not reflect that this council voted on 3B III, and in fact, it voted on numbers of amendments, but never by itself did we vote on 3B III, and for a reconsideration, in my opinion, to be proper, we would have to be voting or reconsidering a vote that was taken, and we didn't vote on this.
If I might respond to that, I was concerned about that and looked at the vote, and when I look at the vote, I think you need to go to page 12 of the minutes of the meeting, and there were 5 votes yes and 1 nay that voted on all 3 of the B, I, double I, triple I, and quadruple I. And so there was a vote on B3, which states, on all other areas of Bayview Avenue, there shall be no parking at any time. To the question of whether or not we could entertain only part of a motion and ask for a reconsideration, I went to Robert's Rules, and that's what the council governs itself by, as Robert's Rules. And in Robert's Rules, it says that you can ask for a reconsideration to rescind or amend something previously adopted, to change something previously adopted either by striking out the entire action or by changing part of it. And in a second reference, which was an older copy of Robert's Rules, it said the similar thing in, let's see, let me just read it. It says that reconsider or amend after adoption can be used after adoption of another motion to gain a second consideration or to change something in the adopted motion. So I did that research, and then we also contacted our legal counsel, Chris Vandiotis, and he concurred with that. So the point of order is certainly taken. However, I believe that legally we are within bounds, based on Robert's rules, to consider only B3, V-I-I-I.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I respect and admire your commitment to detail. However, I believe that the reconsideration to amend after adoption, in reading the excerpt that you provided, to gain a second consideration speaks to the purpose as to why one might want to reconsider. But the motion to reconsider allows a group to consider again a motion on which a vote has been taken. And we have not taken a vote on 3BIII. We took a vote, as you said correctly, on the entirety of the motion. And within that whole vote, there was much discussion that evening. And there were a lot of give and take, back and forth compromise, if you will, that I believe was a reason why we had it, why it passed 5-1. And to take 3BI out and then to have a discussion on that, I believe, countermands the action of the group.
However, we did vote on triple I, because everything in red that's in those minutes were the things that we were voting on when we took that vote. So we did, in fact, vote on triple I. We voted on all of them because they're all labeled in red, and that was what the vote was taken upon.
Okay.
So I
Again,
believe that we did vote on it.
we voted on all of them together. But
Exactly.
but I respect your opinion, but I just disagree with it. And if your opinion is, it sounds to me that that is what we're going to proceed with, I would request that we have a roll call vote of the council and ask for the next step as to whether we should proceed by virtue of the majority agreeing with you or not. And I believe that's within our rules.
The vote would be on whether reconsider or not?
I'm asking that we vote whether we agree or not with the chairman's interpretation of Robert's rules and its application to the reconsideration item that's in front of us.
And just a point of clarification, you did talk to the town legal counsel and backed your interpretation, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
And again today, also.
all right.
Spoke with them. So you're making that in the form of a motion?
Please.
Is there somebody who would like to second that?
I think procedurally, you as chair have the right to rule on the point of order, which you've done. He has requested that the full council affirm or not your decision in that regard. So I don't think a motion is necessary.
Okay.
It really is a vote of council now as to whether they support your interpretation.
Okay. So can we have a roll call on whether or not
We support you.
council supports my research and the point of order that was raised by Council Wood?
Counselor Alquist?
Yes.
Counselor Holbrook?
Yes.
Counselor Sullivan?
No.
Counselor DeAndrea?
Yes?
Counselor Rancourt?
Yes.
Counselor Wood?
No.
Council Chair Roy?
Yes.
Of course.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Wood. Mr. Donovan?
Thank you, Ms. Roy. I'd like to address the reconsideration motion because while you've just considered the appropriateness of it, I believe it's not in proper form. Your rules do not address the specific deficiencies in it, but as the chairman has indicated, Robert's rules are then consulted. In this particular case, what the chairman has cited is circumstances as to what you can do with the reconsideration, which is you can amend it in part or you can amend it entirely. What you have to do, however, is you have to start at the right starting place. And Robert's Rules tells you what the right starting place is. And I'll have a copy of it that I'll submit to you, which is called effect of adoption of the motion to reconsider. And it says, the effect of the adoption of the motion to reconsider is immediately to place before the assembly, again, the question on which the vote is to be reconsidered in the exact position it occupied the moment before it was voted on originally. What that does is places the vote that you took on B3 back before you now. So look to your minutes and you will see that B3 was included amongst the items that was voted on. And it was voted on in an integrated fashion with B2. That's what your minutes say. There's no getting around that. It places you back to the moment when you took that vote. And therefore, you have no choice but to reconsider that vote, which is B2 and B3. That's uncontrovertible. And any adjustment that you want to make to it, yes, you can do it in part, as the chairman cited, or otherwise. That all depends on the motion to amend. But you have to start with the vote that you took, and that's what Robert's Rules says. And it would be an affront to the neighborhood of Higgins Beach to do otherwise, because otherwise you're attempting to control the debate on what will be the outcome of parking at Higgins Beach. And we're aware of what the intention is by narrowing it. We know what is attempting to be done, and we're not happy. And it needs to be said so that people understand that we understand what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. We have only 8 more minutes of the 30 minutes, so if anybody else wants to speak, please do so now. Is she not? Okay, is she okay?
Okay.
All right. Okay, I will close the the general public comment. I need a motion on the reconsideration.
So moved. And the motion that I'm going to make is,
We need to vote to reconsider.
okay,
Need a second?
move
Need a
to
second on
reconsider.
that. Okay.
And a second to reconsider?
I'll second. All those in favor of reconsideration? Opposed?
I'm going to move that little b, 3II, be amended to read, "On all other areas of Bayview Avenue, there shall be no parking at any time except during the off-season, September 16th through April 30th, on the ocean side of Bayview Avenue from Morning Street to Vesper Street."
Second? Second. Discussion. Council Rancourt.
Couple of things. I'm the one who started this whole thing by asking for a motion to consideration over a month ago today. And I actually was not sure of the form the motion should take, and I asked that our town clerk contact our counsel to give me the language that was necessary. I did not, I was more than willing to reconsider the entire action, but I was told by our town attorney, Chris Vaniotis, that the motion should take this form. These are not my words. This was directly from the town attorney. I would be more than happy to open the entire item again to discussion, but when I did my motion to reconsider, this was the section, and one other section that I wanted to reconsider, which was inadvertently left out of the discussion on my motion. So before us tonight is what the town attorney provided to the town clerk,
or the language to be included in the motion to reconsider. So that's why we are reconsidering this tonight. And I've heard from a number of people who are on both sides of this, and I realize this is a very serious issue. My concern is that at the last, actually 2 meetings ago, although we had a canceled meeting in between, in the heat of all of the amendments, that we basically took any parking in the winter away from the side streets. And I think that really is a major change to the venue there, especially in the light, as has been said before many times, that our chief of police and our fire chief believe that winter parking is not an issue at Higgins Beach. So that's why I began this process, to make sure that we have fair winter parking at Higgins Beach. And so I am asking my fellow colleagues to vote in support of this motion.
Counselor DeAndrea.
I plan on supporting this motion. I'm really glad that it did come back for reconsideration. I agree with Counselor Rancourt. I think we tried to correct a non-existent problem. There were no parking problems in Higgins Beach in the winter. We've heard this over and over again from the professionals. There was no data to support it otherwise. And I wish we were reconsidering parking on all the side streets again. However, since we are not, and this is what we are reconsidering, I will support adding additional spaces in the winter along Bayview.
Counselor Holbert.
I'll be supporting this evening as well. And I would like to just say that I'll be the first one to admit sometimes we're wrong. And sometimes we don't always know all the facts. And that is my own disgrace, if you will. It wasn't until after the meeting that I learned that this is a 60-foot right-of-way. This was given to the town and logged in the Registry of Deeds of 1915. We're also talking, this is a horse and buggy era of time, and that is significant. And it speaks very loudly and clearly to me as to the desire and the intent of the town at that time. It also speaks volumes to me as to why our public safety would say that there is not a problem. A 60-foot wide right-of-way is a large, large right-of-way. This has less, there are roads that we have that do in our beach communities with less footage, with more use. And that's what I keep coming back to as well. That looking at, for instance, Jones Creek or East Grand Ave, there is two-way traffic with on-street parking on one side, with sidewalks, and it's able to be parked on in the winter. So I think that we should be able to manage this in the winter on Bayview as well as we do in some of our other neighborhoods. So that's it for me.
Counselor Wood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry. I feel compelled to speak to the issue regarding right-of-way. My memory is that in our last meeting, we didn't speak so much of right-of-way, we spoke about the paved portion of Bayview. And I talked about Bill Bray's memo relative to what his opinion was as to how wide a street shall be and its relationship as to whether vehicles can safely pass. And when we talked about the block between Morning and Vesper, it was, and it still is, illustrated to be 24 feet wide, paved roadway. The right-of-way, 60 feet. I mean, that in of itself does not surprise me. Most right-of-ways, I think, at least present day, are 50 feet or greater. But it's unusual to see a 50-foot wide road. But every subdivision that's probably been approved in the last 15, 20 years, you'll see a 50-foot right-of-way. But we're not parking in the right-of-way. At least I didn't think we were proposing to park in the right-of-way. Part of the discussion also about a month ago was spoke to how we can safely demarcate the parking, the parallel parking along Bayview. Stripe it. And to me, that was, we were talking about striping pavement. So the paint can adhere, and it can be seen, and it can be utilized effectively. On the block between Morning and Vesper, although it widens from the area previous to that on Bayview, it's two-way traffic. And Bill Bray's memo spoke to needing effectively 11 feet of pavement each way for each way of traffic, which gives you 22 feet, and then a 2-foot shoulder, which gives you 24, 26 feet. We don't have 26 feet. We have 24 feet. Yes, we have 60 feet right away, and we do have the legal right to pave 60 feet, apparently. But that's not what's before us. But what's before us is parking on Bayview between Morning and Vesper on one side. I believe we're proposing to park on the pavement. If we're speaking about parking on the right-of-way, then that's another discussion. So I don't think that we were really off base, if you will, in our thinking a month ago. I think I don't think you were wrong, Councilor Holbrook. I think you beat yourself up a little bit too much. 24 feet was the proper context. We do have 60 feet right away, but we only have 24 feet to work with, in my view, to put into effect a safe two-way travel situation and parking on one side and incorporating a reasonable expectation as to what the pedestrians and the coming and going of the activities would be down there. And for those reasons, I don't believe it's prudent to allow parking between Morning and Vesper on Bayview, given the limited resource we have there. Thank you.
Counselor Sullivan?
I have to concur with Council Woods. If there is a 60-foot right-of-way there, and the option was on the table that we had the money, the funds to make it 60 feet, then yeah, there could be plenty of parking there. However, like Council Woods says, we're dealing with what we have there now, not what could be. Unless we can find the funding with a tight budget to do it, which I doubt. But we have to deal with what we have.
Counselor Holbrook?
I don't believe at any point anywhere in this that I look back at the parking restrictions, that it ever talks about exactly where the parking on Bayview is. It doesn't say right of way, it doesn't say street, it doesn't say road, travel way. It just says Bayview, Bayview Avenue. To me, I look at this and say, I personally don't have an issue with if they are off the paved surface, and it can still be designated with the signs. There's room enough there on those shoulders. There's adequate room on that shoulder, on that one side of the road, to be able to accommodate this. It doesn't have to always be perfect and right away. And I think that also attests to the fact of what we've been saying right along, that these improvements would come, like the sidewalk pedestrian way that's on the home side of that street. It won't happen this summer. And as you all have said, exactly, there are no funds right now, but it is in the grand scheme and the grand plan. It's just my.
Counselor Elks?
Well, I certainly don't want to encourage anybody, or I hope we're not going down the path where we're telling people it's okay to park on the right-of-way if it's off the pavement someplace. I mean, I think we want to keep some kind of order down there, and that was the whole idea of this thing, to say we own 60 feet and just go for it wherever part of that is. I don't want to do that. But what we're proposing, or somebody's proposing here tonight, I guess it's Carol, that in the wintertime, we're going to add 23 spaces? Is that correct?
I don't think it's that many.
Well, I mean, are you talking about
25 feet from the intersection.
are we talking about the,
It's 8 or 9 additional spaces from what,
we're going to keep the drop-off zone, we have that, right?
drop-off zone, and then the,
1 hour parking, 10 spaces?
correct.
So it would be an additional 13 spaces, is that right? That's the way I look at it, and
It's an additional about 8 spaces. And that's going to depend upon engineering, because Bill Bray's engineering report said that any parking needed to occur 25 feet from the intersection, so.
I see, okay. Yeah,
It's not
we'll
that whole
back
orange
that
part,
up.
Ronnie. It's the lower part of that orange.
It's limited to the block between morning and vesper.
Okay,
Highest
Right.
number would be 9, most likely be 8.
okay, 8 or 9 then. Well, to carry on, I think we all kind of knew what we would, I think we knew what we would do in the last vote. I mean, we studied this thing for months, and we had many days of hearings and everything else, and if we overlooked something, wow, I guess we did. But am I willing to reconsider, and in the wintertime, between these months of September and April, to allow that additional 8 or 9 spaces? I don't mind that. I think that's good. It's a winter time, and I'd be willing to support that.
I guess I can weigh in, and now everybody else has weighed in. And I feel the same way as you do, Councilor Alquist, that those spaces in the off-season certainly is something that we can look at. I know, like, for example, right now, probably no cars should be parking there. I mean, that's common sense, but common sense isn't quite so common anymore. I live on a street that's only 22 feet wide, and just yesterday, there was a fire truck on my street, and only one car could barely get by the fire truck parked on that street. So there's an element of common sense which goes with any ordinance that, that we establish, but my original wishes were that the parking that's in the Vista area be limited as far as time, in the wintertime as well, with those spaces from morning to vesper added for those people that weren't there for a Vista, to allow the people that really just wanted to sit there for the half hour to have those spaces, so that was my intent. However, I certainly, I don't really have any objection to the 8 that are there. And I think the other thing that we always have to think of, one, we're working really hard on the potential for the webcam, so that we can see what's going on, and others can access that. And certainly, there are times, as we've recognized in the last few weeks with the snowstorm, when there's been parking bans, and the police very, very effectively went down and took care of those issues. And there are times when people wouldn't be parking in those areas, hopefully. The parking lot, from what I hear, is being used. Some people have only seen one car there, but I had another report that said that there were several of the surfers that parked up in the parking lot, and they said it was a very cold walk back to the lot, but they did do it. So there are people who are willing to comply with what we're looking at. We will look at it. I don't think we have to put a sunset clause, but we've already entered into the records that we will review it come next December. We will look at the whole process, and we will look at issues, concerns, and problems that we've had, and then make modifications if they absolutely are necessary. So I think I can support that reconsideration. Councilor Wood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just feel compelled to also mention that, over a month ago, we had some pretty lengthy discussions on this whole subject. I think I counted 7. There might have been 8 amendments to the main motion, and each one of us participated passionately to each other as to why our opinion should be the prevailing one. At the end of that meeting, or right prior to the final vote, I think it was Councilor Rancourt who mentioned, in the spirit of compromise, in an effort to find some middle ground, we came up with what we have before us prior to tonight. And I have to say that, I certainly voted for parking on Bayview in the summertime. I didn't support it. But in the context of all of the discussion in totality, I recognize the value of finding some point in the middle where we could put this behind us, test it for our period of time, and move forward. And I agreed with Councilor Rancourt's spirit, if you will, of compromise. But having this come back to us in this manner, I believe undermines that to some degree. And I'm disappointed in that. I would have rather have, again, had a more fuller discussion on all the points like we did a month ago, and I think we would have likely arrived at a better place than we're about to tonight. And that's all I have to say about it. Thank you.
What I would add to that is that I perhaps have to take some ownership in it as chairperson and not being very clear and restating exactly what we were voting on, so I will take some onus with that. However, we have the provision for reconsideration in our rules and policies of the council for that very purpose. How many people have begun a project and done it a particular way and then went to bed and slept on it and got up and said, you know, I shouldn't have really done it that way, I should have done it the other way? That's what that provision is there for, because you have time to think a little more about it and put things in order. And certainly, there were a lot of motions that night, and it does get confusing, but I will take some of that ownership of that and endeavor to be a little clearer. I believe this issue has been my trial by fire as chairperson. If we can get through this, hopefully all of us will learn in the process. But certainly the council does have a process that we do follow, and I think a lot of citizens did send emails this week, and the manager was kind enough to make a reply to them relative to the process, because there was question of whether or not, why are we reconsidering? And it's part and parcel of our rules and policies, and part and parcel of rules and policies of most organizations who make major decisions. So we don't do it lightly, but when it's necessary, we do bring things back for reconsideration. So, Councilor Alford.
Yeah, just for the record, I think you handled it just fine. I have no issues the way you handled it as a chairperson. I think it was a very complicated, high emotional issue, which I think you did very well. I just wanted to make one other comment. I'm only voting to support these additional spaces because it's a very narrow, I call it tweaking, and certainly somebody said, I think it was Carol said, she would open the whole thing up if she could. I certainly have no interest in doing that. I think it certainly undermines, as Council Wood said, everything we've done. So this small tweaking, which is important, I'll support it.
Any other comment?
What is that noise?
What is that noise?
Yeah,
It's the aliens coming to take us away.
vote. It says vote.
So I will
The
move the
roof is
question.
caving in.
All those in favor of the reconsideration to amend the item B3 by adding, see, I just already failed. Where did it go? You have that motion. Okay. Adding the verbiage, except during the off-season, September 16th to April 30th, on the ocean side of Bayview from Morning Street to Vesper Street. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. And thank the public for all of your input over the process. We will watch it closely. We will do what we need to do to remedy any major concerns as we move along on the issue.
The number 11-7 is act on the nominations for the various committees and boards that were posted at the January 19th Town Council meeting and recommended by the Appointments Committee.
I've had a request from the chair of the Appointments Committee that we divide the question and to break them out by committee.
By committee, right?
Right.
Yep.
The chair of the committee also asked me to read, do you want me to read the nominations in their entirety, or as we go?
No, we have to do it, I'd like to do it by committee, and then we'll vote on it by committee if we could.
So do you want me to just read each section, is that it?
Yes, yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna
Oh.
move approval.
Oh, wait a minute, I have to have a motion to divide the question.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of dividing the question? Opposed?
Get a vote.
okay.
I'm gonna read, move approval
Can we, for Tody's benefit, how many in favor again, please?
to divide the
Divide the
question.
question. Do you want to divide the question,
No.
Carol? Oh, you don't, okay. So there's 4 that want to divide the question?
Yeah.
All those opposed? All right, I'm sorry, great.
Makes sense.
So the question is
Why would we
divided,
wanna do that?
and we will entertain each committee.
Okay, I'm gonna read order number 11-7, excuse me, for the Board of Assessment Review. The nominees are to reappoint Robert Conzel as a full voting member with a term to expire in 2013, to appoint John Dupont as first alternate with a term to expire in 2013, and to appoint Christopher Herrick as second alternate with a term to expire in 2011.
And that's in the form of motion.
Yes, it is.
There's
Second.
Any discussion on those appointments?
Just to say that there are no other vacancies that fills that committee.
All those in favor of the members posted to the Board of Assessment Review? Thank you.
Order 11-17, I don't know why I want to say 17, I'm sorry. Order number 11-7 for Personnel Appeals Board, reappoint Penny Whitney Azadorian as full voting member with a term to expire in 2013. Move Barry Lucier from first alternate to full voting member with a term to expire in 2012. And move Amy Cross Sawyer from second alternate to first alternate with a term to expire in 2011.
There's a second.
Second.
And that leaves one vacancy for second alternate, if anyone would like to apply for that committee.
Any comments? All those in favor of the Personal Appeals Board? Thank you.
Order number 11-7, Community Services and Recreation Advisory Board, reappoint Art Dillon as full voting member with a term to expire in 2013. Move Barry Lucier from first alternate to full voting member with a term to expire in 2013. And move Amy Cross Sawyer from first alternate to second alternate with a term to expire in 2011.
Could I, is that not correct? She went from first to,
Yeah.
she should be going from second to first, should she not?
I think you're right.
It should say
Yeah.
Amy Cross Sawyer
Yeah,
from
so
second
that-
alternate
That's
to
right.
first alternate.
So that means we have one opening in that committee.
Is there a second to those nominations? Discussion on anything, folks? All those in favor?
I'm voting already. Okay. Order number 11-7, Planning Board. You can see I'm anxious to get through all these names, make sure I pronounce them right. Reappoint John Chamberlain, Ronald Mazer, and Jeffrey Thomas as full voting members with terms to expire in 2013. Appoint David Bouffard as first alternate with a term to expire in 2012. Appoint Carrie Corthell as second alternate with a term to expire in 2012.
Second?
Second.
Comments? Councilor
I just
Alves?
wanted to make a comment. I voted against the second alternate. I am on the appointments committee, and my reason, I just wanted to make it clear that my reason is that I voted for people who had been in this town for 20 to 30 years and who are experienced in this area. And I thought it would be great to get them on board and to have them get involved in the process. And we went out looking for people, and we found some, and the committee overruled me, outvoted me, and they chose to pick a new person in town to be on this committee. So I guess my disappointment is that, you know, we have people who've been around a long time in the profession, and they wanted to be a part of this, and I think that they certainly interviewed very well, and I want to explain my vote and why I voted against.
Councilor Hobart?
Mr. Gold.
I also have appointments committee as well. I do take very seriously all of my committees and all of my duties and charges, and I did read all of the applications, and I was very comfortable supporting the nomination. I thought, although yes, perhaps that this specific applicant had not lived in the town quite as long, I thought that the expertise that she would bring to this would be more suitable.
Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, you know, I don't, I'm disagreeing with this. Not everybody, you know, at some point may disagree with my point of view. I believe that one of the applicants that's lived in town for 30 years, has 30 years in the construction field, knows a lot about building, was overlooked. My basic feeling was it was politics at play. Whether that was true or not, I don't know, but the charge of the appointments committee, I always felt, was to pick the best candidate for the job. And I don't agree with that happened. I agree that, I don't agree that happened.
Council Wood?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't believe it's my duty as a counselor to question what went on at the appointments committee meeting. What I feel my duty is to react and respond to those names that have been presented to me. And before me, as Councilor Rancourt read, are the names that I considered. I didn't consider anyone else that might be out there, and and certainly there were others that were actually part of the appointments interview process. I wasn't a part of that process. Now, we're talking about Ms. Corthell as a second alternate. And I was a little bit curious about Ms. Corthell, and I was a little bit concerned and how she might perform on the planning board. Now, everyone should know, if they don't already, that the planning board is I think of it as my child in many ways. It's how I became educated in the ways of the town. I served as its chairman and vice chairman for many years, and I've been the liaison to the planning board for years that I've been on the council. I felt it was my duty to either confirm or set aside my concerns with Ms. Corthell. So what did I do? I called Ms. Corthell up. And we met, and we had a discussion for over an hour and a half. It wasn't all pleasantries either. I don't hold anything back, and neither does Ms. Corthell. And I appreciate that candor. And I don't need to go into the details of that meeting, but I will tell you that I did my homework. And I came away convinced that Ms. Corthell has a very clear understanding as to what the role is of a planning board member, how important it is, and how that in many ways can influence and must influence how you perform even outside the planning board process. So I'm comfortable in supporting the names that have been presented before me by the Appointments Committee, and I would invite my colleagues, if they have concerns about any individual names, that they do something similar or maybe something that results in either alleviating or supporting their fears, and then they can act accordingly. But again, there are many people in this town that I believe have resumes that would dwarf any of ours, that either raise their hand to be considered or don't. But I don't believe it's my purpose at this point to go into that area. I believe my focus and my charge is to look at the names that are presented to me by the Appointments Committee and to act accordingly. And for that reason, I support the names that have been submitted. And I thank them for their volunteering.
Council Rancourt?
Yes, I'm on the Appointments Committee, and I was one of those who voted this out of committee in the affirmative. And I want to say that although there may be a suspicion on some council's part that this was political, I have no political affiliation with any of the people on this list. Didn't support any of them or campaign for any of them or any other such thing during the election. And I never support anyone during an election. I don't believe in that. I believe it's the will of the people, not my will, that votes people to this town council. On the other hand, we did interview, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ronnie, I think 6 people, or was it 5? 6. And that we had some really good candidates, no doubt about it. And some of the things that did cross my mind in the process of this was I'd like to see a wide variety of people on our various committees. I think having newbies as well as oldies is good. I tend to lean toward oldies myself. People who've been here a long time. But of many of the 6 that we interviewed, quite a few of them have only been in town a very short time. And it's good to have at least some new people learning about our town by taking part in activities. Also, right now, there is no woman on the planning board, and I wanted to see that. We did have 2 women that we interviewed. They were both excellent, but given the interview and the choices that we had, this is the slate that we brought forward.
Councilor DeAndrea.
Well, I might as well throw in my 2 cents, too. I think everyone else has. Who knew that Ms. Corthell would be so controversial? I have to say, the more the merrier. I know that there, in many towns across the United States, it's often looked at that if you haven't been in town long enough, you shouldn't have any say in what goes on. Well, I don't believe that. I'm glad that new people in town get involved in what's going on. I think that sets a great example. It's participating in our participatory democracy, and I think that's important. I agree with Councilor Rancourt. I think it's terrific that we have a diversity of people on our committees and boards. I think getting viewpoints from lots of different sides is also important to the health of our democracy. So I happily will support probably everybody on this list this evening, including our most controversial.
Any other comments? Councilor Wood?
I have to mention that, just so Ms. Corthell doesn't think she holds any kind of unique status as being controversial, I too, when my name came forward to the town councils for many, many years ago for appointment to the planning board, did not get a unanimous vote.
That I can understand.
I didn't know that.
Perfect sense to me, right there.
That was the hidden secret.
Dealing with you, Mike. Really, I just want to make it crystal clear that this was nothing personal towards you. This was all about people who I thought were better qualified in the field, and that's my opinion, and I wanted to express it was certainly nothing personal.
I think one of the questions I would have asked all of these candidates is to please, would you please not build another Walgreens at the corner of Oak Hill?
That's Judy's favorite
That's a
building.
little
It's my most
controversial.
unfavorite building
Yeah.
in this
You
town.
just make a statement.
Doesn't fit the decor for my estimate. Okay, with that, anybody else? All those in favor of the appointments to the planning board? Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, Order 11-7, Zoning Board of Appeals. Reappoint Mark Maroon as full voting member with a term to expire in 2013. Move Art Dillon from first alternate to full voting member, term to expire in 2011. Move Martin Maciso from second alternate to first alternate with a term to expire in 2013. That leaves one vacancy on the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
Second.
Comments? Mike?
I just want to say real quick, I know the Zoning Board of Appeals has some pretty interesting subject matter before them, and I would be remiss not to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Maroon, Mark Maroon, for his very effective and delicate management of those meetings of late. And I appreciate his continued volunteering to serve in that important role.
And I just wanted to say that, the folks that we had on the planning board that weren't appointed this time, certainly, we have one vacancy, I believe, left, a second alternate, and I would hope that they would consider applying for the zoning board of appeals.
And I guess what I would say about these candidates, it's nice to see Art Dillon hanging in there. Art ran for council a few years back, and many times people run for council and they are unsuccessful and they just go away and you never see him again. And Art has continued to be very active in his community, running the concerts in the park every year and, being members of the local groups. And so I applaud him for his due diligence of staying in there and being active in the community. All those in favor?
Okay, order number 11-7, Shellfish Conservation Committee, and this is a long one. Reappoint Robert G. Willett as full voting member with a term to expire in 2013. Move Tim Downs from first alternate to full voting member with a term to expire in 2011. Appoint Terry Toomey as full voting member with a term to expire in 2011. And at the request of the Shellfish Committee and the recommendation of the Appointments Committee, move that Tom Daly be removed from the Shellfish Committee pursuant to Town Charter Section 204.1.1, which says the town council may remove any board appointee and appoint a successor for the unexpired term of any member who fails to attend 4 consecutive regular meetings or who fails to attend 75% of all meetings during the preceding 12-month period. The town council may waive attendance provisions for due cause, and I believe that this rose to those percentages.
Just for the records, the correction, the Tom Bailey, I think it came out as Daly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Bailey.
Yeah, it's that dyslexia kicking
Was
in.
there any reason why you would feel that the council should waive the attendance?
No, that's just the language,
Oh,
that's
okay.
all.
Right.
So that was our recommendation.
Second.
Second on that, okay. Comments or? I guess I would have one comment on this committee. This committee is made up of people that are all in the business, right? And I just,
I
Kind of-
believe we have,
No, we have
didn't
one.
say we have
we have
one
just
that is-
one who
Yeah,
is
we
not
have one
acclaimed.
that came in
Yeah.
this time, I believe.
That's good, because I think, I'd like to see that mix, because when you get all of the members of that Shellfish Commission who are actively participating in that as their livelihood, sometimes that gets in clouds what needs to be done, so it's kind of nice to know that somebody is on there that is not in the business of digging clams. Council
Yeah.
Sullivan?
There was discussion brought up that, make the Shellfish Committee more balanced in the way you were talking. And, I don't believe the applicants are there to support that
Yeah.
at this
That's-
time.
That's kind of a problem. All those in favor of Shellfish? Opposed?
And I want to say, this leaves one opening in this committee.
Okay, cable TV?
Okay, backside. Order number 11-7, Cable Television Committee, reappoint Richard Harvey as a full voting member with a term to expire in 2013. There are 5 vacancies available on this committee, so we need volunteers.
Second.
Discussion, comment?
We are glad to have Richard Harvey, at least we have
Thank you.
somebody.
Yeah, Richard Harvey, I started on the council in 1990, and Richard Harvey was on cable TV then, and so he has put a lot of years into that. All those in favor? Is there any issues with any of the other committees that anybody wants to bring up? Could we perhaps take all of them now?
Well, we're going to add a name onto the
Okay.
Housing Alliance, so
All
I
right, so
think you
let's-
need to go through the...
Okay,
I'll try to do it as
Housing
quick as I can.
Alliance? Yep.
Senior Programs Advisory Board, we have 2 vacancies. We have nobody to nominate tonight. Housing Alliance, we have reappoint Craig Friedrich as full voting member with term to expire in 2013. Appoint John Dupont as a full voting member with a term to expire in 2012. And Ronnie, I don't have that name right in front of me right now.
Trish
Tremaine.
Tremaine? Trish Tremaine?
And when would her term expire? Say again?
2012.
Go forever.
2012.
would that name not be posted tonight? Because that's the process, that it
Yes,
must
we'll
be
post that
posted
tonight.
tonight.
Okay.
We cannot vote.
So the motion would be
As
to
is.
accept those and to
And then
oppose
to
this
post
additional
this one,
name.
Yeah.
yes, okay.
Second.
All right. Comments? All those in favor? Carol's voting again.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Conservation Commission, reappoint Peter Slavinsky as full voting member with a term to expire in 2013. Appoint Christopher Herrick as a full voting member with a term to expire in 2013, and there are 2 vacancies on that committee.
Second.
Any comments? Karen?
No, I just want to thank Peter for his service. He's been doing a great job. I think the Conservation Committee in general has been working pretty hard, and Peter in particular has been working on a lot of the sea level rise issues, and I'm super glad that we've got a new member, Christopher Herrick. That's exciting.
All those in favor? Thank you.
Parks and Conservation Land Board reappoint Sue Foley Ferguson and Doug Williams as full voting members with terms to expire in 2013. There are 2 vacancies available.
Second.
Any comments? Karen?
And again, I just want to commend Sue Foley Ferguson, who, a former counselor, has remained really active with the town and is also on the Housing Alliance, so she keeps pretty busy.
Other comments? All those in favor?
And last but not least, 11-7, Ad hoc Oak Hill Pedestrian Plan Advisory Committee. The Scarborough Resident Committee we're appointing Paul Bebo, Emily Reed, Betsy DuPont, Mark Finnerty, and, boy, this is a good one, Steve Strasquillerzi.
Excellent.
I hope that's right, Steve.
Who it is.
And then we have for our business person, Steve Berg, Planning Board member Ron Mazer, Counselor Carol Rancourt, Town Planner Dan Bacon, or his designee, Public Works Director Mike Shaw, Community Service Director Bruce Gulliver, or his designee, and Nancy Crowell from the municipal/school community.
Second.
Comments? Questions? Mike?
Yeah, I'm curious as to how Councilor Rancourt feels about sidewalks in the Oak Hill area.
I love them.
All right, I'll support it.
I want them.
All those in favor? There will be another Council Alquist applicant for the Senior Program Advisory Board.
Oh, for
Should
those 2
come to a
vacancies?
meeting on Tuesday just to see, and I think you'll get an application from her.
Oh,
so-
good. I'll post the next meeting. Good.
Under new business, order number 11-3 is a first reading and refer to the planning board the proposed amendment to chapter 405, Town of Scarborough zoning ordinance to amend section 6 definitions and the proposed new section 7F aquifer protection overlay district.
David, did you have some comments first? Can you speak to all of it? All of them?
Just the 2.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you do that right now? Before- Or do you want to wait till Dan's presentation? Okay. All right. So with that, Dan Bacon is going to give an overview for the council and for the public on this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair and the council. Bringing up a PowerPoint real quick. This is a initiative that's brought forward by the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee. It involves some added protections for the town's significant sand and gravel aquifers, which a lot of the community provides important drinking water source for residents and businesses. The Comprehensive Plan Committee is working on it, given that it's highlighted in the comp plan, the need to protect the quality and quantity of the town's groundwater resources, and most particularly sand and gravel aquifers that have high yield groundwater. They also have high vulnerability given the soils. And this initiative really came to the forefront at other public meetings and zoning initiatives when the town was updating the zoning in North Scarborough, which is, as we all know, a small business area that's not served by public water and that sits on top of a very high yield aquifer. So as part of that rezoning initiative, residents were concerned about commercial uses, more intense residential uses in that area, and really wanted us to come back and look at some protections for the high yield aquifers. So just to quickly touch on significant sand and gravel aquifers, as I mentioned, they're a very critical drinking water source where there isn't public water available in town. largely west of the turnpike. There's also some areas east of the turnpike that are significant aquifers where folks have wells as opposed to public water supply. The committee also feels that they're important even where there is public water service as future water sources should things change in the future. And the vulnerability of these aquifers is really based on the soils. Sand and gravel soils are very porous, very leachable. So if there's a spill or some type of contamination, it quickly gets into the soil and then into the drinking water source. And therefore is difficult to contain, difficult to clean up, and the soils don't absorb or treat contaminants. Coupled with that, aquifers are generally pretty close to the surface, and therefore it's quick and easy for contaminants to get to these waters. In North Scarborough, there are wells that have groundwater at 3 to 5 to 10 feet in depth, so they're a vulnerable resource. This is obviously a map of town, and this shows the significant sand and gravel aquifers per the State Geological Survey. As you can see, there's a large area along Gorham Road out in North Scarborough. There's some areas on either side of Broadturn Road, and Judy taught me this pointer option earlier, so use these arrows. Along Holmes Road, there's 2 significant sand and gravel aquifers, and then east of the turnpike, there's a smaller aquifer along Haggis Parkway, a smaller area off of Muzzy Road, and then 2 larger areas, one in the Pleasant Hill neighborhood and also part of the industrial area in Pleasant Hill Road, and then along Black Point Road. It's largely residential. So the committee, in exploring this topic, and it being a complex topic with hydrology and groundwater, a lot of topics that the committee is not used to dealing with zoning on the surface of the earth, used some experts in the field. Maine Rural Water Association helped a lot, coming up with ideas on how to add some additional protections, and Maine DEP has a division that deals with this topic and helped us with this initiative. And we started it by identifying existing state standards, really to reference, to create awareness around, and also potentially locally enforce as opposed to duplicating or conflicting with what the state's already doing. And coupled with that, the committee really focused on trying to minimize potential prevention as opposed to other approaches. So the standards would be in a new aquifer protection overlay district, and they would apply to those sand and gravel aquifers that are mapped by the state that I showed an earlier slide on. And just to quickly touch on the bigger picture items, there would be some uses that would be prohibited, such as disposal or storage of solid waste, leachable wastes other than wastewater and such, and sludge. There's also be a prohibition on the storage of gas and petroleum products, really for use off-site, such as new gas stations, underground storage facilities for gas stations, or fuel distribution type operations. There's a standard that would require larger wastewater generators, like a apartment building or restaurants, uses that generate well beyond the typical single-family house, to conduct a nitrate analysis, which the planning board actually already does for subdivisions. So this is somewhat logical extension from that, and to ensure that nitrate levels stay within reasonable standards. There's some proposed standards regarding fuel tanks and fuel supply lines, primarily heating oil tanks, things of that nature, such as double wall tanks to prevent leakage, often with fuel oil tanks, corrosion occurs and there can be some leakage. So there's a proposal in there to require double wall tanks in these particular areas, and also expects sleeved fuel lines so that, which are buried, so that if there is a leak, it's contained and known about, as opposed to leaking directly into the earth, into the aquifer. There's also some standards regarding the storage and use of chemicals or petroleum products, and this is aimed at non-residential commercial uses, not typical household use, so that there's secondary containment. So if there's a leak, it's contained and not infiltrating into the groundwater. There's some standards on floor drains, which already aren't typically allowed in most applications in town. So and where they are allowed, they would need to be registered with the state, which is expected currently. There's also a standard about ensuring that large water users demonstrate that they're not impacting the quantity of aquifers. Large user, again, could be a restaurant or a use like that that consumes well beyond typical use and consumption by a single-family house. And the last two topic areas are there's some stormwater management standards for development activity in these aquifers, so that stormwater is treated for larger projects and then discharged to surface areas, so that there isn't untreated stormwater that could impact the aquifer. And lastly, there's a reference that manure and agricultural fertilizers comply with state pest management practices. In some cases, those type of uses and runoff associated can impact groundwater resources. So that's a general overview of what the overlay attempts to address, and that's item 11-3, or order 11-3, which is the overlay district. 11-4 is the proposed zoning map amendment, which designates, again, the aquifers, significant sand and gravel aquifers, as mapped by Maine State Geological Survey as the new Aquifer Protection Overlay District, which would be subject to these standards. And in terms of public process to date, as I mentioned at the outset, we really started this initiative in light of some public concerns that we heard in North Scarborough, given the high yield aquifer in that area and the lack of public water. Crafted some standards and then distributed them to a focus group. We involved a farmer, some business owners in North Scarborough, and then some residents to try to get some initial feedback on the proposal and make adjustments. And we also have involved DEP in terms of getting their guidance and also being consistent with the things the state's already doing in terms of groundwater and aquifer protection. So with that quick overview, I'll turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Public comment? Okay. You need-
Well, you know. Yeah, true. I guess every.
Okay.
That's probably because you're not well.
Okay, we'll reconvene. Mr. Green? Remember to state your name and address, time limit's 3 minutes.
Dave Green, I live at 135 Beech Ridge Road. I'm also a licensed master oil burner technician with the Oil and Solid Fuel Board in the state of Maine. I make my living dealing with oil lines, oil tanks, and boilers and hot air furnaces. There's a whole lot of stuff in here, and in 3 minutes, I'm not going to be able to address it all. Need to read the thing. I got some highlights, issues that I've got right off the bat. One is the uncertainty of the boundaries that the USGS map creates. You need to make specific delineations on the town assessor's map so that the poor homeowner doesn't have to come down here and have his property surveyed because half his property is in that district and the other half may not be. You need specific delineations. Storage. There are no approved oil storage containers less than 100 gallons. The smallest one I'm aware of is 138, and it's not double walled. So if you want to tell people that they can store up to 100 gallons, what are they going to store it in? Let's come up with some things that equate out to what's out in the field, okay? A minimum commercial fuel storage tank starts at 300 gallons, okay? So I don't know, all the people that wrote this, I'm not sure they're fully aware of what's out there and what we have to work with. All residential oil tanks should be double-walled tanks as far as I'm concerned. I'm in the trade, I deal with leaks, spills, etc. all the time. The Oil and Solid Fuel Board in Maine, make no mistake about it, much to the chagrin of the DEP, has complete control over oil tanks in the state of Maine. DEP does not have control of that. And the Oil and Solid Fuel Board in the state of Maine, by exception, allows 990 gallons of storage for a single appliance in your cellar. Please don't set arbitrary numbers for the maximum amount of gallons that can be stored if you don't know anything about approved tank sizes. Please take the time, inform yourself, and read the Oil and Solid Fuel Board laws and regulations and NFPA 31, which is a federal law. They're very short, and they will tell you what's allowed and what's not. We don't need to reinvent the wheel in the town of Scarborough. Parking of commercial vehicles. Vehicles need a real definition for what a commercial vehicle is. Pickups and vans are routinely registered as commercial vehicles. My van is, and it's parked on a dirt driveway. Are you going to tell me I can't park my own van at my own house because it's got a commercial plate on it? Somebody needs to look at this. Wells. Wells that would draw more than 2,000 gallons a day are quite natural and quite common west of the turnpike. They are called artesian wells or drilled wells. I know most drilled wells in towns are capable of sustaining a minimum flow of 5 gallons a minute. Do the math, okay? 5 gallons a minute is 7,200 gallons per day. Where did they come up with the number of 2,000 gallons a day, or you gotta come do something special with the town? I take 2,000 gallons a day out of my well in a heartbeat on a summer day, watering the lawn, watering the vegetables. This is some kind of arbitrary number that they came up with. It's not realistic. Mother Nature and geology are what they are. When a well is drilled, you don't know how much water you're going to be capable of taking out of it until after it's been tested. So, those of us that live on the west side of the turnpike, we don't have a lot of choice about it. And if my well's capable of producing 10,000 gallons, then so be it. Why do I have to come down to the town and demonstrate that I'm not going to hurt an aquifer, which you've all heard Poland Springs stories from their geologists saying they couldn't possibly, in their new plant, ever pump anything dry down there?
Can you wrap up?
No data regarding the pollution supports these new proposed regulations. I'm far more concerned about the 30-plus 10,000-gallon oil tankers running up and down Muzzy Road and Gorham Road from the tank farms heading west. One of those rolls over, you're going to have a bigger problem than anybody's oil tank in their cellar at 990 gallons. Current state and national regulations adequately provide reasonable and effective parameters for the storing and handling of petroleum and chemical products. The town doesn't need to reinvent the wheel and create unreasonable and unsubstantiated regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Dan, I think there were some questions, if you could go back up to the podium from the council. Councilor Sullivan?
I had a question brought up to me for discussion. When you, when this was all thought out and gone over, was there any discussion of prohibiting commercial, commercially extracting water from the aquifers for resale?
Such as a
Such
Poland
as
Spring or-
Poland Spring scenario?
There was not discussion about that beyond the standard about ensuring that high extractors, maybe 2,000 is not the correct number, but high extractors needing to demonstrate there isn't adverse impacts of the aquifer for quality or quantity, but there wasn't discussion or focus on regulating commercial level extraction of water resource.
Well, because this issue's come up in other towns,
Yep.
and I've heard people mention to me that they're concerned about protecting the aquifer that their wells are in.
Okay.
No, I don't claim to know anything about it, but this is discussions that have been brought to me. And I'm wondering if that's been looked at and discussed.
Hasn't been looked at
Not, I
specifically.
think
We
it
can incorporate that as this works through the process, certainly.
Yeah, something like a commercial outfit would have to demonstrate that wouldn't adversely harm the aquifer that people depend on for their water supply for their house.
Council Wood?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dan, these standards, I'm the liaison to CPIC committee, so I participate in a lot of these discussions, and I did on this one. And to Mr. Green's point about being more concerned about the oil tankers driving up, through North Scarborough, believe me, the committee shared that same concern. I think we were pretty much at an impasse as to what kind of prohibition we could probably enact that would be enforceable. Essentially, it was nothing, but that is a major concern and should be, and you're right to speak to it. But a lot of these standards, now, it wasn't my sense that we were sitting down and taking votes as to what number looked good on a piece of paper. Like, for example, the extraction of groundwater exceeding 2,000 gallons a day, that spoke to where it only applies to geothermal, or am I wrong in that?
No, it applies to geothermal. That was
Okay.
a primary component of concern. It also applies to other uses, other extraction of water, such as a multifamily house or a restaurant or other perhaps commercial uses. Perhaps there are agricultural or residential uses, single-family residential uses that extract that much. And I think the number came from advice from the Maine Rural Water Association staff person,
Yeah.
our planning consultant, and also a sense that is beyond typical household consumption. We certainly can and should look at that number to see if it's appropriate.
Yeah.
But the focus was well beyond single-family homes.
Okay. And certainly, I'm not suggesting that we not revisit some of these suggestions. I think that everybody will agree that the point and the purpose is that we do what we can to put in reasonable ordinances that will protect the health and welfare of our citizens, especially those that live west of the Turnpike, myself included, who rely upon well water to sustain ourselves. And what little that we can do, I think will be invited by the public. And this is a great first step, and this is the first reading, and I appreciate all the comments from not only Mr. Green, but others that we'll receive also, that can make this a document that we can actually be proud of and move forward with. As far as the storage of fuels and the like, I remember that discussion, and the sense of the committee, and tell me if I'm wrong, the sense of the committee was that we didn't want to put forward prohibitions that were unrealistic and unreasonable for the average use of the property, whether it be residential or commercial. It seems to me that maybe we need to go back and just refocus on the storage of petroleum and fuels and chemicals, et cetera, that are beyond the use of the property. I think that was the general sense of the committee.
It was, yeah.
Okay.
And
It's not meant to restrict the use of the property itself, no matter what that use might be, whatever is allowed.
right, it was really, in terms of storage of fuels and chemicals, if you take away home heating oil, because we are expecting residential, commercial, agriculture to install these double wall tanks. So that was a uniform requirement regardless of the use. But beyond that type of fuel storage, the aim on the standards was really the commercial, non-residential, higher users of fuel and chemicals that are selling these products, that aren't consuming them on site, I guess to your point.
Right.
That are outside of typical on-site or household quantities and consumption, such as, again, a gas station, perhaps a oil company that contains and then distributes oil to homes, perhaps some other businesses that involve the sale or storage of larger quantities of chemicals, things like that. That was the aim, and Councilor Holbrook, before this meeting, actually raised a number of these comments, and Mark Ironman and I went through them and did point a lot of areas where the standards are kind of mixed together that apply to residential and commercial. So we have some ideas as to how it can be reorganized. The district can be reorganized, not dramatically changing the standards, but just putting them in a format that I'm a residential property owner, I'm going to look here and get all my information and not have to dig through the various sections. And so it's just a clearer document, so.
Question, because we don't have a motion on the floor.
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry. Okay.
Can we, if there are any other questions of Dan for clarification, because we do need to get the motion on the floor, then
Well-
certainly there'll be more discussion.
No.
Do you have a
Well, I
specific
just want,
question?
yeah, to Dan. These proposals were developed as a reflection of other towns in the state? I'm trying to figure out how they came about, or is this a whole new document by your office?
Other communities have similar standards.
Okay.
Brunswick, Gray, there's a handful of communities in our region that have similar standards. They're often applied when there are wellhead protection areas, or there are wells that serve as a public drinking water source. A lot of communities have their own wells as opposed to Portland Water District. The impetus for the proposal really came from comments and concerns we heard in North Scarborough when we were rezoning that area. So that's what got it on the radar screen, and then we began to look at other towns' ordinances as well as advice from DEP and the Maine Rural Water Association.
Just a little Beatles interlude.
Okay.
I don't know whose jacket that
Any
is.
other questions for clarification? Or can we have a motion for the first reading and, to refer to the planning board?
I'll move approval of order number 11-3.
Which includes the first reading and referring to the planning board. So there'll be more discussion, certainly, at planning board before it comes back to us for final anyway. So is there a second on that?
It is, yeah.
Okay, other comments, now comments on the amendment.
I just had one question for Dan, and I figured I'd wait till after the motion was on the floor. Dan, I noticed in this that there's a lot of references to various state standards. And we've been reading a lot about possibility of rolling back of a number of state standards. And I'm just concerned that, about that and how that would affect this. So if we were to adopt this in this format, based on the current state standards, and then they were later rolled back sometime this year, would we be going by the current standards that when we adopted this, or standards going forward after a change in them?
Well, I think in this case, in terms of protections and standards, it probably helps the community to have a local ordinance, because if we have it in our ordinance, then the town can enforce it locally as opposed to relying on.
Right, and I'd like to have it state the current standards as of the date we adopt.
Okay.
So that if they are rolled back, we don't have lesser standards.
Right.
Good,
But
thank you.
as a community, we can make our standards stricter than the state.
Yes, but we're all saying, we have a lot of references here
Yep.
to ours would be the same as the state standards.
Okay. Counselor DeAndrea?
I'm curious about sewage sludge in Scarborough. Do we have much of that being spread in town? And are we made aware of that? Is that something that's permitted?
It's not permitted in most, if any, zones, so we don't have much of that if it's human sludge. No. We did, I
Years
think, a
ago.
long time ago on a particular property off of Broad Turn Road, that's now being considered open space and monitored, the sludge.
Trees grow good.
Right, well, because
Tibbetts Road.
I'm
So,
curious,
no, that's-
because it's allowed in here, and I'm wondering, why is it allowed in an aquifer zone
It's
that we're trying to protect?
under,
Under prohibited activities, it's mentioned there under number 1, where it says, "This prohibition shall not apply to the land application of sewage sludge, And then again, it's mentioned at the very end, letter J, where it talks about requirements for the application of manure and/or, oops, I thought it mentioned sewage sludge back here, but maybe it didn't.
It's for agricultural.
That's it.
I think they're talking about
Anyway.
before.
Yeah, it prohibits disposal of sludge, except for the case of, like you mentioned, land application, sewage sludge. But I don't think that occurs in
So could
the
we
community.
prohibit that? I mean, it just seems to me that if we're protecting an aquifer for drinking water, we wouldn't want to apply sludge anywhere near there.
Yep, we can look at that.
Thanks.
Counsel Hobart?
Sorry, I'm still trying to.
All right,
Counsel Wood?
I'll help you out, Counsel. Just one other point, Dan, I think that was brought up, that's a good one, is the zone itself. You know, and we, for other reasons, though, I think CPIC is quite good at this. We should look at that overlay district and do our best to be very, very precise and follow property lines, et cetera, whenever practical, because that would be unfortunate.
The challenge with that is that the boundaries are based on
The
soil
aquifer.
type. It's a soil type delineation, and it's, we certainly, per Mr. Green's comments and yours, we certainly can show approximate boundaries on the assessing maps. We've done that with our other zones. So the property owner can go to assessing and get an idea of whether their whole property or a part of their property is in the zone as mapped. But on the edges, I think it's going to be tricky because
Do we talk about, forgive me, I should know this, but I don't think it's in here. Do we talk about, though, what percentage, in those kinds of cases, which I imagine won't be unusual, do we talk about what percentage one's property must be or doesn't have to be in this overlay district before they would come under these requirements? Because you could see how ridiculous it can get. You could have a 2-acre piece of property where there's 5,000 square feet of it that is in the overlay district. And we wouldn't, would we? I don't know. I mean,
we can look at ways to try to deal with properties that
yeah,
are
we should,
split.
we'll talk about it.
It's trickier because it's a natural delineation. Soils transition from sand to clay.
True,
or
and
what
a
have you.
strong argument could be made that that contamination next door, even though it's not in the overlay district, can easily migrate.
Right.
But
We can,
I think that's a good discussion that we'll
yeah,
have.
absolutely.
Counsel Alquist?
Is there any change to septic systems and how they're installed at a higher standard than what's presently on the books?
No. There's a simple reference that septic systems need to meet both the local codes and state codes. So it's really just reaffirming,
Just reaffirming, and there's
Yes.
no additional standards.
correct.
Thanks.
Counsel Hobart?
I'm not gonna go all over everything. I thank you so much, too. By the way, I sent poor Dan a whole slew of questions that he did get back to me on. Most of them all kind of pertain to around what we're talking to tonight. But I think, I just want to make sure, as much as I have a few concerns about it, which I've already sent to you, I mean, wholeheartedly and fundamentally, I do support having this district. I think it's entirely important and critical really to the future for this town. The reality of it is, I don't believe at any point, anywhere in the near future, we're gonna be dragging water over to West Scarborough. So this is a very important resource to maintain and keep. And like I said, outside of a few, which I think a lot of it is just kind of wording, things that just, were well-intentioned, but maybe just, the wording was slightly off. My only one other concern that I didn't really get into is I just want to make sure we're not possibly creating, and I'm not sure how we could verify this, but that we're not possibly creating conflict. If we say, for instance, one of the things is all outdoor tanks must be white, and realistically, the Oil and Solid Fuel Board has jurisdiction over licenses as to what you can and can't, what these people that are going to put it in for you can and can't do. And they decide, well, we have some new lovely spaceship paint that we want you to paint with it instead. That, there's not conflicts here, because we can't have our town saying one thing and a state agency saying something different.
I think that's what Carol was speaking to, making sure that we're not in conflict with the state, what the state's saying.
I mean, maybe it's worth a visit of, I mean, is there somebody we can contact up there to just shed maybe an opinion on it?
I defer
Yes.
to Dan. Certainly, I think, all good questions, and I think, Mr. Green's points are extremely valuable, and I think, we move along, we're gonna be getting planning board input, so I think there'll be more poignant questions, I hope, from the planning board relative to this, before it comes back to us, that it should have some of the wrinkles out of it.
And I might add, Madam Chair, that is CPIC meeting Friday?
We are.
Any other comments or questions from Dan? All those in favor of the first reading and move to the planning board? Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Dan. And then,
Thanks, Dan.
That was both of them.
that was, yeah. We're going to take it separately.
Order number 11-4 is the first reading and refer to the planning board the proposed amendments to the town of Scarborough's official zoning map to delineate the proposed aquifer protection overlay district.
Any additional comments, Dan, that you, any information? You really did most of it in the first.
Now, this item's simply the zoning map amendment that delineates the
Areas.
aquifer district overlay.
Can I have a motion, please?
Move approval of Order 11-4.
Second?
Other comments or questions? This is in tandem with the first one, and certainly many of the questions that were raised will follow this one as well. So, all those in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
Order 11-8 is the first reading and schedule a second reading to amend the fire department budget for fiscal year 2010-2011 by increasing revenues and expenditures in the amount of $146,294 as outlined in the attached memo from the fire chief.
Chief.
Go ahead, Chief. As he takes the podium, I'll just quickly introduce us. Most of you were on council, all of you were on council just about this time last spring. Chief Thurlow, actually through the budget process, I think, announced that we were making application. We heard that we were successful, I think, early in July after the budget had been finalized. And changes of this magnitude really confronted some challenges mid-budget year. And so it seemed prudent to come forward to the council and seek a budget amendment to make sure we reflect the proper receipt of money and, of course, the expenditure money on the other side. So with that, certainly fill in the gaps.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, everyone. Just to refresh everyone's memory, shortly after the 1st of July in the current fiscal year, we did receive notification that we were successful as one of only 2 communities in the state of Maine to get a staffing for adequate fire and emergency responder grant through FEMA. The total grant's for $448,100, and it's a 2-year grant that pays 100% of the base salary and associated benefits for hiring fire and first responders. The period of performance started at the beginning of October, so from the time we got notified in early July, we had a hiring process. Once we completed that process, knew exactly what the cost of those 4 positions was going to be. Now we're coming to you with this budget amendment, which will take care of the expenditures for the 9 months of this, the grant within this current fiscal year, and the offsetting 100% revenue. So it's a net, a no-tax issue. The revenues completely offset the expenditures.
And simply related to that, we will reflect these changes in the budget for next year, so amendment will not be necessary.
Question?
So what we're dealing with here is the first 2 years are covered by the grant, and then after that, according to this, it's expected of us to keep that person on for 1 more year.
Correct. The grant requirements are that the federal government, as part of the stimulus money, paid for 100% of the cost in the first 2 years with the agreement that the local community picks up that cost for at least one additional year.
And when would that reflect the one additional year?
Next fiscal year, our budget will show 100% funding for these 4 positions again, because it started in October, so we will end in October from 2 years from then. So next year's 100% fully funded. The year after, there will be grant funding for 1/4 of the expense, and then we'll pick up 3/4 of the expense in fiscal year 13.
And we'd have to extend that for another quarter. Cost.
And then we would have to keep that employee
Technically.
1/4 into the next fiscal year.
Because the expectation is with these grants and the year afterwards, that we're gonna keep those positions on forever, so, and that's, I guess, a caution to the wind there, that there is no guarantee, and I hope people know that there is no guarantee that those positions are not permanent, so it's funded by a grant, and we have an obligation for a year, and that's what's gonna happen, but what happens after that is certainly up in the air, I would think.
Based on the economics of the time.
Exactly.
Question, I think. Councilor Wood?
Thank you. Good evening, Chief. Now, you said that we were one of 2 communities in Maine that were awarded this grant. Do you have any sense of how many communities applied for it?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, Councilor Wood. The competition was significant.
So, okay. So,
Nationwide, I think there were only a little over 200 of them given out.
I see. Now, you've been before the council and the finance committee over the years, eloquently illustrating what our hiring needs are. And this was we couldn't meet those needs because of budget constraints. This was a way for us to do something, move towards that overwhelming need, with the caveat, of course, that Councilor Alquist illustrated, that it comes with a little bit of a sticker, if you will, about maintaining employment. But our sense was, back when we talked about this, was that the need has already been demonstrated. We're not adding personnel where we don't need personnel. That's first and foremost. The sense back then, and I'm hopeful that it still is with us here today, that by the time the grant subsidy goes away, that our situation in town will be such that we can support the personnel without too much hardship.
You're very true, and as a matter of fact, this grant, the timing for this grant couldn't have been better. We came to the council in 2006 with our initial staffing report. We updated that again in 2008, and we did make progress in 3 budget years. In fiscal year 10 and in fiscal year 11's budget, we weren't able to implement the plan that we put forward and that was endorsed by the council, which was to hire 4 full-time individuals each year moving forward over a period of 10 years. That was the economic reality. We certainly understood that. And then when the federal stimulus money kicked in and we were as fortunate as we were to get this grant, it just fell in that not only did they give us what we had already predicted that we needed and we had already put forward a solid plan for, the federal government came in and basically funded that fully for the first 2 years during the peak of our economic woes, in hopes that by the time this kicks in, things will be starting to look a little bit better. So the timing was impeccable.
And just 2 quick comments. Well, one question and comment. Who authored the grant?
Who offered it?
Who
It's-
authored? Who wrote the grant? Who-
I did.
You did? Okay. Well done, because when you think about 200 communities, only 200 communities were awarded this grant nationwide. And my sense is, I don't have the statistic, I'm sorry, but my sense is that it was probably many more times that raised their hand and wrote their justifications,
You can count on it.
right? Probably a magnitude of 10 times that, minimum. And the fact that the grant was awarded to Scarborough, I think, is testimony not only to Chief Thurlow's ability to write a grant, which is an art, if you will, in many ways, but also the data that he did and used to support the reasons why we needed those 4 is what we've been hearing since way back in 2006. So you're not alone. This council hasn't been alone, and thankfully, the person who awarded the grant to Scarborough agreed with us. So well done.
Thank you.
certainly support this net zero
Are
budget.
there any other questions? We need a motion on the floor.
Sorry.
Move approval of order number 11-8.
Second.
Okay, any other comments or questions? I would add to Mike's, to kudos, Chief Thurlow has been very successful in writing grants for the town of Scarborough on many occasions, and this is just yet another, and I thank him for his hard work. Other comments, questions? All those in favor? Thank you.
Order number 11-9 is act on the request to extend the contract with the town auditors, McDonald Page and Company LLC, for 1 year pursuant to section 215.1 of the town charter.
Have a motion?
Move approval of order number 11-9.
Second. Discussion?
Do we do this
Counselor?
annually?
Yes.
You do it annually, although we are working under a 3-year contract really for pricing purposes, but I think there is an annual appointment to meet the technical requirement of the charter.
I guess I would say, just based on the performance of McDonald Page, we went with them, what, 2 years ago now?
2 or
And,
3 anyway, yeah.
We've received awards for our audit reports, and so that is proof positive that they're doing an exceptional job with the auditing and cost-effective and comparatively to the previous auditors, so you've done a good job, Counsel.
Yeah, I agree. I think tonight, we listened to the auditor's report, and I think they made it understandable, so the average person could understand at least sections of it. Parts of it I was lost, but that's okay. But in the end,
You're not alone.
you're right. I think it demonstrates that they've done a fine job, and I would support.
The comments? All those in favor? Thank you.
Order number 11-10 is act on the request from the fire chief to approve the updated emergency operations plan.
Chief Thurlow.
Thank you again. This process is something that we bring to you folks every few years. The last time that the council officially adopted the town's emergency operations plan was a little over 5 years ago. The town's plans is a living document. We are constantly, the public safety departments and public works are improving plans, changing things, and keeping them up to date. The state requires us to periodically do a thorough review to make sure that everything's up to date and that we've included everything that we need to, and it's part of requirements for getting grants, so obviously we want to make sure that our house is in order. So this request is nothing more than to have you review the current draft that's before you and to authorize us to keep moving.
Can I have a motion, please?
Move approval of order number 11-10.
Second? Second. Discussion? Comments? Counsel DeAndrew?
I actually looked through this thing. It is
I was
huge.
hoping that before you voted
I
on it, you
did
read
too.
all 893 pages.
It is huge. I will say that it's sort of scary to think that, these plans might have to get put into action. There's some
Done it a few times.
scary scenarios in there for sure. Although I kind of had to chuckle a little bit because, and as you said, it's a living document. It changes constantly. And I noticed that it was already outdated because the Homeland Security warrant threat system is now no longer in existence and, of course, is still in the report. So
I don't think they acted on it.
kudos to you to keep that thing up to date. It's a monster. And it must take a lot of fine-tooth grooming to keep it in good shape. So thank you. And
Thank you.
I can't say it was enjoyable to read through, but it
Probably
certainly
about
was,
as much fun as it was to write.
it was certainly enlightening.
I have to say that I also perused through it. One of the things that concerned me was my name's in there as the council chair, that I might be the lead person, God forbid. But you identify acronyms at some point in the report, but you don't do it at the beginning of the report, and so I'm reading it, and I don't know what an SO or PIO is, or an LNO, or an IAP, or an ISC. So I would like to see you go back to the first time you use an acronym, that you give the definition of what that is. I think for the person, you know, if you're working with it all the time, you know all of those acronyms, but for myself, I would not know them.
Good
So
point.
just to identify them the first time, much like when you write a report. So that would be helpful.
I appreciate the feedback, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
It
But I-
just shows, Judy, that the town chair has to be a triage nurse.
Well, you know, I can do PVCs and ABXs, and I can give them all kinds of medical terms that can go away too. But, yeah, that would be helpful, I think, to the average person that might get stuck with that job. God forbid that it would be me, but. Other comments, Mike?
Here it is right here. 800-something pages.
Yeah, I know.
I did not read through it.
I would point out, though, that he did ask that counselors, once you've had a chance to review it, that you return your copy to the office so
I
they can
brought
assign
mine.
it to.
Oh, I forgot mine.
So make sure that you do bring it back.
That's my point. I'm bringing it back, here it is. And to Judy's point, working for the FAA, we come across acronyms all the time, too. You might want to maybe just do a page. Here's the, and
Yeah, just.
don't worry
There's a whole
about,
one in there, it just isn't where she wanted. and
don't
I
worry about the
certainly
body,
agree.
you know?
Well, the one that's in there
So-
doesn't have some of the simpler ones, the SO and the PIO, which are at the beginning of the, more of in the beginning, but there are some deeper into it, but they're not those.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you for watching over us.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. And let the record show, Counsel Wood and Counsel Rancourt are turning in their sensitive documents.
Counselor Alquist, did you have a comment?
Well, I'll turn mine in as soon as I find it. Check out of my seat of the truck.
Mine's on my desk, but. Any other comments, questions? Thank the chief for doing the
Thank you.
upgrade, and certainly it's an ongoing process, so. All those in favor? Thank you.
Order number 1111 is act on the annual seasonal road postings for weight restrictions if necessary from February 22nd to May 15th.
Move approval of order number 1111.
Second.
This just relates to roads that cannot handle the heavy traffic, particularly once the day warms up in the early spring, so that what happens with these roads is if there is any deliveries from big vehicles, they are coordinated with Public Works and occur early in the morning when the ground is still solid before it warms up, and so there is a list of them on the back. Other comments or questions? It's our annual duty. All those in favor? Thank
Hoping
you.
for an early spring.
Order 11,
Kidding.
no. Sorry. Order number 1112 is act on the request to amend Chapter 311, Schedule of Fees, Chapter 1201, Cemetery Fees. You wanna speak
Yes,
to that?
Mike Shaw, Public Works Director. I'm not sure if he holds a specific title, does he, Tony, relative to management of the cemetery? No. At any rate, he is responsible for handling the details of managing the town cemeteries, and has come forward with a suggestion that we sell cremation lots. And this is really in response to a lot of requests he's received from residents and other folks looking to buy lots. They don't need the typical plot. Cremation is apparently more and more common and requested. And associated with that, he's certainly identified an area, and there's a map in your material, to house these lots and to sell them off, and then an associated fee for that.
Can I have a motion?
Move approval of order number 11-11. No, I'm sorry, correction. Order number,
It should be 11 dash,
it should be 11-12.
right. Is there a second?
Second.
Counsel Holbrook.
I just, is this, I'm just trying to make sure this is what I'm visualizing. We're talking about ashes and like the urn?
Yes.
Okay.
Dust to dust.
I would have a comment. The suggested fees, interment fees, are $110 for weekdays and $150 for weekends. And that's an issue for me, because the good Lord calls us home on different days. And I just really, I had a problem with that when my mother passed away, that I had to pay this larger fee because we were gonna be burying her on a Saturday, and that, that's what worked. And my thought in this, we're saying 110 for weekdays, 150. If we established a flat, straight-out fee of 130, could we not cover that weekend cost? Because I don't think that's really fair to the families whose loved ones decide to die on Thursday and the funeral has to be Saturday. I know that you have to pay more on the weekends to do that, but I'd like to see if we could even that fee out. Just a thought. I mean, it doesn't, it's a higher cost, but, like, again, the good Lord calls us home on different days. Just to make it easier on some people may not have that extra 50 or 40 or whatever. So.
I'd like the opportunity just to research that before I provide
Yeah.
comment.
I mean, most cemeteries do that, but it just was a really stickler point for me.
I'd simply note that the scheduled fees does come back to you as part of the budget approval, so
Yeah.
within the month or
Yeah,
two,
let's
we'll
do it
be.
in
Yeah.
Finance Committee.
So I
Yeah,
might
so-
suggest, just for purposes of getting something through, if you're
Sure.
willing to accept this proposal as presented, you can revisit it
But-
within the month.
But I'd ask the Finance Committee look at that, and, I mean, if you do a higher fee on a continuum, on a 7-day, I think that it's fairer across the board to all involved. Mike?
Well, I was just going to say, I like the idea, and in today's economic time, looking for revenue, I like the fact there's only 2 weekend days and there's 5 weekdays, so I think I'm going to be in favor of increasing the fees.
But if you charged 137 days a week, you still come out a little bit better.
That's what
what I'm
he's
saying.
Oh,
saying.
is that what you're saying?
Good
Yeah.
point.
And I don't, you don't put any undue financial burden, increased financial burden on the families.
Right.
'Cause at the time of a death, you're distraught anyway, and then bingo, they say, well, it's Saturday, you're gonna have to pay $50 more. It's just that one more thing that you don't need at that.
Wait till you find out the cost of the urn. That will.
Pine box will work for me. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed?
Thank you.
Order number 1113 is act on the request to amend Chapter 311, Schedule of Fees, Chapter 404A, Local Plumbing Permit Fees.
And left.
Dan left, simply this is catching up. Apparently, the Department of Health and Human Services has changed their fee structure, and this simply intends to bring our local fee structure
Health
for,
and Human- What does you mean plumbing?
Really went up.
I believe it's the Department of Health and Human Services is the State Department agency tasked with
Oh, really?
with this.
That's interesting.
Telling us what we're gonna charge for fees?
In a couple of specific instances, yes. Specifically for non-engineered wastewater disposal systems, I believe that's what it's references.
So
We have a motion, and then we'll discuss?
Move
make-
approval
I'll-
of 10-13.
Okay. Counselor Alves.
So does this revenue, to the manager, does this revenue go back to the town or partially to the state, or how does that work? I'm not sure. I thought it went back to the town, but,
I thought it was local revenue. I'm not aware that if there is a portion, it's certainly not the entirety. There may be some portion that goes back to the state.
yeah, I'll support this, and we can debate it in the Finance Committee and get further details.
Yeah, because, I had some questions about this one as well. The non-engineered system for a complete system goes from 130 to 250, but it's the exact same fee as an engineered system. So that's something.
Yeah, we'll talk about it, Finance.
Yep. Not that I don't want to create revenue, but it just doesn't seem justified that a non-engineered system, it's a fee of $250, but an engineered system is the same.
Maybe that's because they want to encourage everything to be engineered.
Could be.
Well, I was gonna ask, when do you have, I thought they all had to have been engineered. When would that even occur?
Don't know.
I'm afraid I can't answer that. I didn't want to hazard a guess. If you like, I'm not aware that this is terribly time-sensitive. This is a
Yeah.
matter that you could table, and I can
Yeah.
provide you
Yeah,
information.
because I had the question of what are the state fees too, so.
But am I correct that there's no great time sensitivity?
The state's already implemented these fees, and we're just trying to come in.
Do we table this?
No, you got a motion on the floor, and
Yeah.
I suggest we approve it and take it up in the finance committee and get the details.
Yeah, I think that might be prudent.
Make it
Thank you,
work.
Madam Chair. And also, reading real quick the memo from Dan, it tells me that this is a direct result of the state increasing their fees. This is not Scarborough exercising its latitude. So,
It's
So-
revised state rules that's
Right.
causing the increase, so.
so I got to believe there's a nexus here.
But they might be changing rules, they change every day.
Right. All right.
All those in favor? Thank you. All right, non-action.
Non-action items.
Non-action items, a report from the town manager on the Higgins Beach parking lots.
If you don't mind, I think I'll take the podium.
3 minutes. Not to rush you there, Tom, but
My sticky notes. CFP.
I'm not certain if we need to look at the graphics. I'm back before you this evening. It's been about 2 months since I first appeared before the council and with our consultants and presented concepts with regard to how to improve the lot. We had some ideas, received a lot of good input at those meetings regarding some of the operational components. At that point, I promised the council we'd return back before you once we've met with the planning board, which is a requirement to receive an advisory opinion. Included in your packet materials, I did provide minutes from the planning board, so you get a chance to see their thoughts and comments with regard to the concept plan. Since I do have it here, I might as well put it up. Quickly to refresh your memory, what we're looking at here is what we're calling the master plan, and that shows, thank you, Judy. I really didn't intend on going into great detail, but I'm pleased to if you wish. But in the interest of time, many of you will recall, this is the master plan showing the build-out of the lot. We're showing the location of a new bathhouse, kind of changing room facility located here, roughly on the footprint, but not exactly, of the existing structure. I do have graphics showing that structure as well. What we're proposing in terms of moving forward is to move forward with the initial scope. And this recommendation really is a function of financial resources and time in many respects as well. The initial scope calls for paving this entrance, installing the curbs and sidewalks, fencing to make sure we're good neighbors, and essentially improving, but not paving, the back part of this parking lot. It steps over and doesn't address the adjunct parking that could be available here, nor does it tackle the bathhouse. Through the course of the council's deliberations on the rest of parking in Higgins Beach, there was some suggestion that we ought to look and construct the 22 or so spaces in this area now, just in recognition of some of the limitations that have been put on for the on-street parking. And the current budget can tolerate that. And it would be our recommendation that, well, we believe it's certainly possible within budget and within our means to accomplish this initial phase and move forward with permitting and ideally construct this for this upcoming season. And so that's certainly a recommendation we bring to you. Associated with that, we have some thoughts regarding the operations. Ultimately, we feel quite strongly that having an automated system, kind of a gate-controlled system, will be far preferable, given the early morning use and interest, and really year-round interest in this beach. We see that as down the road. We don't need to move entirely to that position at this point. And beyond that, we're not looking at putting in the bathhouse facility. So the summer rental, well, the cottage can, still serves a purpose. There's no sense in tearing it down until it needs to be. Our proposal in the near term is to continue to work with the Higgins Beach Inn in terms of management of this facility. Mr. Westberg has the contacts. He's been renting that property for about the last decade. I think, frankly, he has people lined up to rent it through the summer season already. There would be a management contract that would sort out the responsibilities there. As part of that, we would have his staff open the facility in the morning and close it at night, so we wouldn't be tasked with paying our staff to be there for as long as 14 hours a day in the middle of the summer. And we think that can work quite well as an interim step this coming year. Our expectation, and this will be a matter for the Finance Committee and the full council coming up, would be to come back to you with a capital project to fund the construction of the bathhouse. And that's not a cheap endeavor. That's about a $300,000 cost as it's currently configured and proposed. It seemed pretty clear to staff and working with residents and hearing input through the process that creating the sort of amenities that the bathhouse would offer, I think long-term is an important goal for us to reach. Whether we can do it in the near term or we have to put that off is certainly a matter that this council will deal with. But we're prepared to at least bring that concept forward to you as soon as this budget process. Again, it remains to be seen if we can actually move forward with it. So I stand before you this evening. We have budget authority in hand. I don't need any action per se, but I'm very sensitive to the fact that all members of council have been extremely interested and involved in this process since we purchased the lot. Likewise, many residents are equally interested. So I want to make sure that we're touching all the bases, so to speak, and that the set of recommendations we've brought to you make some sense. There's always the do-nothing approach that we could employ as well. So I really look for advice and guidance from council. I don't see there being any vote or actual action necessary, but I'm very interested in your input.
That was a question that I had, and I think Janice Parentes, asked that tonight. What is this process? What kind of input does the council have? Because I'm hearing little bits and pieces that Bruce Gulliver says it's going to be this or the other thing, and it's been a hard enough. The other part of the Higgins Beach issue has been hard enough, and I just want to be sure that we're very clear on process and that there's been ample public input and ideas and thoughts passed around by everybody so that we try to get it as right as we can.
Well, in the near term, there have been a lot of conversation of cost, and we fully appreciate that we don't want cost to use the lot being a barrier at all. We'd propose until we have an automated system in place where an hourly fee could be charged, which I think would be long-term in everyone's best interest, so long as the pricing's appropriate, that we're looking at a $5 fee, a $5 a day fee, as opposed to the historical $10. And with the hope that that's going to not be a distraction or not push business away, so to speak.
Are you considering also the use of the parking permits as with the other beaches?
That's not part of our proposal, and it's really based on the opinion, and that's all it is, that a lot of Scarborough residents thankfully have those passes and use them. We think that they would be very quick to use it here as well, and so the public aspect of the lot, I think, will be compromised potentially, but we don't have experience in that. That's our opinion.
Councilor Rancourt?
I just had a couple of questions, thoughts. I thought, and maybe I'm mixing things up, but I thought that we had an ad hoc committee on the parking lot as well as on the committee that Judy served on the whole Higgins Beach area. And is this their, if I'm right, is this their recommendation? I thought Mike was on that.
It's a steering committee, basically.
It wasn't an ad hoc committee that was sanctioned by the council.
Correct. It was a task force, a group of folks that I pulled together, including staff. Counselor Wood attended many of the meetings. Mr. Conley, who lives on Pearl Street, was involved throughout the process.
And is this their recommendation?
I
Or is it
can't-
strictly community services at this point?
Certainly, the lot improvement was that product of that process. The operational pieces are more the product of Bruce and I and his staff trying to appreciate our abilities, limitations, and what we think, we can do.
A couple of other questions I had is, and these are only thoughts, not that I'm endorsing them at this point, but just food for thought. One is, a lot of people have spoken, a lot of the emails I've received is the idea that they really want to encourage the use of the parking lot and the concept of, as Judy mentioned, the beach passes being used, or that the very first year we charge nothing to encourage people to use and put some good signage to get people to use that parking lot so that we develop the pattern before we start charging. That's just a thought I've heard from the community that I wanted to put out. Also, I guess another concern I've heard, we've heard a lot about, I haven't particularly lately, but certainly we have in the issue is the lack of facilities and the problems that has caused to some of the residents. And without being able to do anything, even temporarily use the house as some kind of at least a changing area, I'm wondering if that's just gonna complicate us being able to really fully assess how it works this summer without having some kind of place where people can use immediately. And I understand I'm not talking about a new facility, but is there some way we could temporarily, has that been considered?
The even temporary reuse of that cottage for public use is really impractical for code reasons, for financial reasons. It also fetches a pretty high price in the summer. As a rental unit, that's its highest and best use. I suppose we come up with some low-cost alternative with fencing and other kind of privacy structure where someone could change behind it if they wished.
In the parking lot somehow,
In the parking
somewhere
lot
maybe
somehow.
or something.
The most critical need, of course, is bathroom facilities, and our answer to that has been porta potties, which we've provided right along and would continue to until we have a formal long-term solution in that regard.
And I'm just, these are just, as I said, thoughts that I have, and,
One of the things, Carol, that we hope to do with the VIPs, and I've been working on the list of do's and don'ts while at the beach. Hopefully being able to get the services of VIP on good summer days to go down and, make sure that those rules and regs are handed out and have them available at the kiosk. So to try to ameliorate some of those bad behaviors.
and also just as I sort of previously stated, making sure that people know we have a parking lot, that having that kind of signage, that beach parking this way, or what have you, that it's very clear that we have this option now.
Clearly, we didn't mention that, but that's clearly our intent to show ownership and publicize the fact that
Thank
it's
you.
open.
Council Hooper?
I think you were,
No, I think you were first.
And actually, I was before all of you.
Oh, that's all right.
But hey, that's okay. Spirit of compromise.
I just really have a thought more than anything, is I just feel it's probably, especially given how much heartache this whole thing has been for some people, that it perhaps is probably, to me, would be inappropriate to have the Higgins Beach Inn running the lot. I would rather see it stand alone until we can do it and do it right than somebody having them run it for us this first year until it's all put together.
Now, let me be clear, our expectation is that their staff would simply open the gate in the morning and close it at night. And that sheds a huge cost and responsibility on us. There are fishermen and others that are there at daybreak, and for us to staff for 3 or 4 months, 14 hours a day.
Just don't staff it that first year,
Well, the
first
problem,
summer.
the problem with that is really it's a burden on the immediate abutters. Even the gentle shutting of a door at 4:30 in the morning can jar you out of bed. And so the solution historically has been to encourage early morning parkers to park down here away from the residents. There are residents that immediately abut the lot here. And so I think it's critical, based on my reconnaissance and talking to the neighbors, that we respect those sorts of needs. And the only way to do that is to have personnel on site. Beyond that, just to control the lot, we need a gate shut at night. If not, there'll be all sorts of shenanigans.
How would we collect the
Potentially.
$5?
Pardon?
How would we collect the $5 if they're only opening or closing?
Well, we may have to forego that. You can collect it on the way out. At Pine Point Beach, there certainly are early morning users, and to the extent we can, when our personnel shows up, we get them as they leave.
I see.
Sometimes we miss people, and that's just part of the business.
Oh, so we would have staff there. every
Further
day.
off what I,
Okay.
I mean, I understand, somebody's gotta be there to open and close it, but I think there's maybe perhaps another venue to go down. I mean, generally speaking, we do have an officer on a bicycle down there. I'm not sure, if he starts in the morning, he could open the
10
gate.
10 to 5, I think he is.
Or, or maybe somebody from, a VIP maybe could come lock it at the end of the night. I mean, I would think it's,
One way or another, we need a permanent, 7-day-a-week, non-volunteer solution. We need someone responsible, or it won't happen on a consistent basis. And I say that from everything I've learned in talking to the residents.
Counselor Wood, and then Counselor DeAndrew.
So Tom, this arrangement with an employee of Higgins Beach Inn,
Yes.
you see that as a final solution or more of a,
Temporary, this season only, perhaps.
yeah?
Again, our goal would be to go to an automated system which would moot all of these questions.
Yeah.
Folks could let them in,
I think
themselves in when they wished.
I think considering the challenges that we're up against and the interest that all of us, I'm sure, share in having this parking lot operational as soon as possible, I can understand and applaud, actually, looking outside the box at that. I know that on the surface, it might create some, whoa, are there any strings attached with this? Because we are in negotiations, if you will, with the same entity. But we all know this. This is all on the table, it's out in the open, and we're free to discuss it. And it's not, there's nothing going on behind closed doors or any shenanigans. And so with that, that's fine. I do think that, did I hear you correctly? You said that looking into expanding is within our financial means?
Yes, the initial scope, which is shown here, and then the permitting and expansion, and we expect something about 22 spaces could be gained here, is about 188,000. Yeah. That is within the current budget allotment that was approved in the current fiscal year.
Well, I was about to say that I would promote us looking into expanding that, but with that kind of a price tag, I wonder if we should see if, I know that we've heard from the public that 60 spaces is not enough. But make no mistake about it, and I think Councilor Rancourt mentioned that she's heard from the public that we need to promote the use of this parking lot. Well, that's great, but you've heard from me, too. For 6 months, we need to promote this parking lot. And promoting this parking lot is nexus to all the other decisions that we've already made about parking on the streets. So that is important, but $10, we already know, $10 was apparently too high for so many people that it created issues on Acorn. Now, when you look in the map and you see how far it is to walk to this beach from Acorn, it amazes me that people would walk that far to save that money, but it is what it is. So we know that $10 is too much. I think free is too little. I think we need to put some value on it. And I think $5, they can sell a lot of foot-long subs for $5. We could probably get away with selling a parking space at Higgins Beach for $5.
It just occurred to me as a practical matter, the permitting here is going to take some time. And it's not likely that we'll get through that process and be in a position to construct that for this summer. So in all reality, we can accomplish the improvements shown here. I'd like to move forward in the permitting process here. We're practically not going to be able to do it until fall, and I'm pleased to come back to you at that point. Just to put a price tag on that, that's estimated to be about $66,000, that piece alone, permitting and construction. The rest of it is about $120, adding up to the $188.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think you're on the right track.
Council DeAndrea.
Thank you. I've heard from folks about the parking lot as well. I think that there are concerns about a few things. One is that why is it being treated so differently than our other beaches? In other words, if we're not gating our other beaches, why are we, or other parking lots at our other beaches, why are we gating this parking lot in particular? That is one of the questions that people are having. And in part, it's because people want to be able to enjoy the beach in the evenings. I understand that sometimes people are in love, and they like to go walk the beach hand in hand in the moonlight. Now, I don't know, I've never done that because I've never really been in love, but, but I understand that they want to do that. I know that the surfers have special nights where they surf in the moonlight. And frankly, a lot of people like to go down and see the full moon on the beach. It's quite beautiful, and I know people who have taken photographs of that. So there's that question. Why is it being gated when our other parking lots are not? The other question that they have is related specifically to the memorandum from Bruce Gullifer, and that is, why is this beach and parking lot, what does the term unusually diverse user groups actually mean? And why is Higgins Beach more unusually diverse than any of our other beaches? That's the second question. There is a concern that people who hold beach passes won't be able to use the beach. Again, why is it any different? If we're trying to encourage beach use, why are we not including our beach pass users to be able to use that parking lot as well? Those are the three sort of major questions that I've been hearing from folks. And then it was brought up earlier, Tom, and I think I might have missed it. I think I might have drifted off in my old age and tiredness. But we talked a little bit about the house being rented. And who is managing that house rental for us for the summer?
I mentioned that I would propose that we have an agreement with the Higgins Beach Inn to do that, which they've done for the last 10 years or so.
Okay. And
There's not many things we do well. Managing rental property, I think, is
no, and I
chief
hear you.
among them.
I'm just wondering, because I hear Counselor Holbrook's concerns, and a resident also voiced some of the same concerns to me, that if we're in sort of negotiations with the Higgins Beach Inn, couldn't we hire a property manager that does property management in Higgins Beach to manage the
Sure we
house
could.
for the summer? And that just sort of takes out that sort of sticky question.
We sure could. I'm still left with the challenge of how do we open the facility at daybreak and close it at dusk. We can staff it.
How do we do that at other, I mean, again,
We
how do
don't
we
have
do
staff.
that at our other beaches?
We don't have staff show up until 8 o'clock at those.
So why don't we do that here?
As I mentioned earlier, the unique thing about this property is the proximity of residences to it.
Great, but it's all down at that one end. Isn't there a way you can put up a sandwich board and steer cars to the other end?
You'd think that people would follow those simple directions, but history suggests that that doesn't always happen. You need to have people on site. I'm not making this up. I mean, we spent a year talking to folks that have lived with this for many, many years, and so I bring to you the concerns that I've heard and kind of taken note of all the way along. I'm not sure if you want me to try to address some of the questions you just posed, but I'm
Sure.
pleased to try. I started to answer your first question, which was why is this one proposed to be gated whereas the others aren't? Frankly, in a perfect world, it's probably the most efficient way of running all of them. But I think the difference is, and why we're suggesting it here, really speaks back to that early morning use and the proximity of residences on really two full sides, and now we're going to have a residence here, well, there already is one. So what happens in this lot, even if it's not obnoxious, can be very bothersome to the immediate abutters. And so having automated control, I think, is important. Beyond that, I think charging an hourly rate is probably far preferable. Given the tides and what happens at Higgins in particular, at high tide, the beach is virtually unusable. You might hit a great beach day and the tide is just right where you can spend the whole day there, but that's pretty rare. Chances are it'll be attractive for someone to be there for a couple of hours and enjoy themselves for all those reasons. Charging an hourly rate, I think, will have the effect of drawing more business to it, as opposed to, I don't want to spend $10, the tide's going to be high in 2 hours. So I think there's some attraction there as well. And then the diversity, I think it's true, from the fishermen to the dog walkers to the general beachgoers. And the kind of the year-round nature of Higgins Beach, I can't say is unique, but again, given the physical characteristics or character of that neighborhood, I think it is different than our other experiences. Pine Point, for instance, Herd Park can house in the summer 450 cars. There are parts of that lot that have residences that abut it, but the vast majority of it, it's a sea of parking all to itself. And so those sort of conflicts aren't quite as apparent and obvious.
Berry Beach, there's trees behind the parking lot before it comes to the houses, so.
Yeah, you're quite removed from the houses. You can't even see any residences at Ferry Beach, to my knowledge.
I don't know, I think the people that I've heard from, and I certainly do, we have restricted parking so much down at Higgins Beach, and this is just further restricting access to the beach. And I think it's a problem. I also have been hearing from people who sort of feel like the public hasn't had enough input into this decisions about the parking lot, the operations of the parking lot, specifically through the advisory committee to community services and/or through some sort of an ad hoc committee around its operation. And I'm just voicing, what I've been hearing from people.
Council Holbrook, did you have another question? And Councilor Wood.
Just had something kind of off of Karen's. If you said there was a gate that you were looking at, not the initial entrance gate, but the other gate, and that was primarily to keep early morning people out. So if that was maybe perhaps one of our first things installed, I know for the season to keep, then it wouldn't have a less of a need for that person to be there or somebody to open that gate, or because that keeps the worst of it out, correct?
Someone's still going to have to open a gate here. Historically, at least in the last dozen years perhaps, or I don't know how long Higgins Beach Inn has been managing it, but their personnel, who live right on site, I might add, come over to open up the gate in the morning. And I can't say that they're there directing traffic, but they're putting up barricades. In fact, Mr. I forget his name, Russ, who lived here, used to do this as well, because he'd get tired of being woken up every morning. He would close the gate at night as well. So I think it's a real issue that we need to be sensitive to. So in addition to restricting access on this upper part of the lot, someone has to open the main gate to the lot. If not, you'll have all-night parking in there. And we'll have really a problem.
That's my next thing too, is I don't know that necessarily it's not a bad idea to have the overnight parking, because I'm distinctly remembering these conversations about people parking on Acorn Lane because there's no room to park for them at their homes. That's why they were parking up at Acorn Lane. You have one guest over and you can't park. So,
No,
I'm just, I'm throwing it out there just even to now on the off-season. Are we planning on, is this planning on being charged in the off-season as well?
No, never.
I
would
think
be
what a lot of
counterproductive.
people are missing here is that Higgins Beach is different than the other beaches, and it has a small resource. It's a very limited resource. It doesn't have the strength, the length of beach that Ferry Beach and Pine Point has. It's quite different, and I think, there's a saturation point that's reached fairly quickly at Higgins Beach. So I think we need to keep that in mind
So
as we look at it.
I think the
mean,
three questions that I would like answers to are, one, do we want to move forward immediately with the expansion or have some experience before we do so? And as a footnote to that, I might say that practically we won't be building that until the fall anyway, so we'll have a summer's experience before we actually move dirt. We can get it all permitted in the meantime. Secondly, generally, what are the fees that you think are going to be appropriate for the upcoming season? And I guess third, whether this would be included in the all beach pass.
Okay.
Thanks.
Very good.
Just a couple of quick points. I think that looking at the possible expansions is prudent, and then maybe come back to us for discussion about what was found and how the construction might go forward.
Okay.
As far as fees go, I think a small hourly fee is prudent. The evidence that I came across and that we heard in these chambers was the parking lot often, very, very often, had vacancy, yet Acorn Lane was full. That tells me, and it should tell all of us, I believe, that the $10 was too much. It wasn't, I mean, that's the only thing you can conclude from that. Because I can't think of another reason why somebody would choose to walk close to what? Help me out, 1.5 miles, 2 miles?
Round trip.
No?
Probably half
Round
mile
trip,
from
half
Half
Acorn.
mile? All right, half mile, in a summer day with kids and cooler and whatever, when there's a parking space available in the parking lot. That tells me that $10 was too much. As far as our other parking lots go, can you confirm for me, Tom, is it not prohibited in the town of Scarborough to park at those parking lots that have been referenced so often in the last several minutes after sunset? Is that true or not? Because I believe it is.
I believe it is, although I must
So
admit, I'm sure the people that do.
So I don't know
there.
why we are struggling with opening up this parking lot to all hours of the night. Because we've been comfortable apparently, and our citizenry has been comfortable with that prohibition at all our other beaches. And that in of itself does not prohibit them from enjoying the moonlight on the beach. It just prohibits them from parking at the parking lot,
Which they do.
which they may or may not do, but they do at their own risk. And I don't believe that, the whole Scarborough police force is going to wail their sirens down Greenwood if they find somebody parking there in the parking lot. But the point is, if it's to be consistent with our other parking lots, then after sunset, that gate should be down. And the other points you raised, because of its proximity to the neighbors, is even more, I think, significant in this regard. So, I agree. It's not different than our other parking lots.
Tony just looked it up, and it's, parking is allowed in those lots from 11P to 5A. No parking is allowed from 11P to 5A.
11
So they
PM.
can
All right,
park-
so that's later than I thought. So I know that in Springbrook Park, I believe the sign says sunset. So we're distinguishing from, so we're recognizing the value of walking in the moonlight. And in our streets are 10 PM at Higgins Beach, right? We said 10 PM?
Yes.
Okay, so there is ample, so between 11 PM and 5 AM, no parking. So actually, we're being more liberal, one can argue, with our parking lots that surround beaches than we are with being like community parks and neighborhoods.
Right.
All right, so I think we're moving towards the direction that so many people are saying that we should, so.
I would suggest that if, as councilors come up with thoughts or ideas, that you make sure that the manager gets those, and so that they can consider them as they move along in the process. Carol Hedder's up first, and then Ronnie.
I just want to say, in answer to your 3 questions, Tom, I agree on proceeding with the redevelopment.
or phase one, let's call it, okay? I would like to see the lowest possible fee to encourage use, at least in this first year. That doesn't mean I wouldn't want to revisit it.
And
in
what
the
might
future?
that be?
Well, Mike is saying $10 is too much, $5 might be okay. He also mentioned just a minute ago an hourly fee, and I think what I heard you say is that that really won't be doable the first
Till we
year
get a-
because we
till we
don't
get a meter.
have a gate, so,
Can't practically manage it without a.
right. I will
Could
say
if
this.
we could reincarnate Gladys Jordan.
I know, if we could get Gladys back, we'd be fine.
$5 footlong.
But what I would say is, I would be willing, I would like to see the passes be used, but if we don't, I would have the fee be around $2 then for the day, for this first year. $5 if we use the passes, everybody else can go for $5, you can use your pass if you want to. That's my input.
That works for me.
Ronnie,
Right.
you're next.
Geez, that's good. I think we got to recognize that Higgins Beach is a small, tight neighborhood, and I think we're doing that with some of the things that you're trying to do with a gate and how you're laying this whole thing out. To answer your questions, question number one, I agree that we should explore the development of the other area. That makes sense to me. Question number two, the fee, I certainly don't want it for nothing. I mean, this town, we're in dire financial straits, and we're talking about, let's do something for nothing. It does make no sense at all to me. I'll leave it up to you whether it's $5 or $10, and I'll also leave it up to you whether you can, your committee, if you can figure out how you can make passes work. If we're gonna lose a lot of money because we're making passes a part of this because we charge $5 and $10 at other places, I think you gotta take that into consideration. So, I'm not convinced passes are gonna work down there, but I certainly don't wanna do it for free, and I encourage you to develop that other section. And I support the gates in the morning and the evening, and I don't have a lot of heartburn on who's gonna put up the gate and take down the gate.
Yeah, the issue of passes certainly will have an effect on revenue, but more importantly, it's a limited resource. We're looking at 62 spaces until we expand. And I guess my concern is that it's going to be taken up by beach pass holders, and maybe that's okay.
But that's an assumption.
It is. I know, I
It's
admit that
total
freely.
assumption, so.
I admit that freely.
That might be the
I think it gets the experience of them using it at least, but,
Well, I'm certainly pleased to take this to the advisory committee. This is the, what is it called? The Community Services Advisory Committee. I suppose we could have gone to them before, but I really wanted some direction from council, so we could bring a bit of a concrete proposal to them for some comment.
and I think too important, you haven't spoken to it, but Tom has also been in constant touch with there's two Higgins Beach there's a Higgins Beach Association, and then there's another, I can't.
There's at least two. There
There's
might be three or four.
two
I'm not
groups,
sure.
and so, Tom has been in constant contact with them as well, getting their input, so it's not in isolation, so. And we had, I think, a lot of good input during the other process, relative to the parking lot as well, so. I would concur with, perhaps developing the other area. I think a $2 fee at least is something, and I'd like to see whether or not we could utilize the passes, at least for the first season. Other comments?
I just have one quick question, thinking of coming into this summer. This other section that there's been some talk about leasing to Higgins Beach, but that's already gravel though, isn't it? Could we utilize that this summer for some parking towards that 60?
Possibly. The value of improving it the way we're showing here is that we can delineate spaces, so you don't need to have an attendant physically parking everyone. Folks will typically conform to laws and park between the lines if you provide them. The way it's been run historically is they have an attendant, and some of them are very good at sandwiching cars in there and might be able to get 20 more cars because they're really effective. So part of the challenge there will be without improvement in gravel only, it's going to be hard to encourage to park cars and do it efficiently.
But if they're going to rent that cottage, where do the people that rent the cottage park their cars?
I believe,
Acorn.
we'll certainly work that out.
Okay.
But part of the reason,
At least we know.
part of the reason that we've not proposed this to be developed for public parking is really it is too narrow to be able to get parking such as this. This is the width you'd need to park cars on either side and have the adequate travel lane. Beyond that, we have an immediate abutter right here. We're trying to be, again, good neighbors.
Okay, any other major questions? You want to wrap up? Any other things that you wanted to?
You're just going to wish me luck for this summer,
Yeah, wish
okay?
luck, yeah.
Go
All
for
right.
it. Go for it, Tom.
I will, I do intend to go to the advisory committee and certainly will publicize that meeting, and it'll be an opportunity for further public input.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, standing and special committee reports. Council DeAndrea.
The Conservation Commission is working with the Ordinance Committee to have a workshop on pesticide use in Scarborough, coming up at the end of March. Have we solidified a date for that workshop?
We're still working on the invited experts,
So we don't have a date.
but
We
we're
know it's
aiming
gonna
towards
be
the 29th.
29th.
somewhere around that date anyway. So, yeah, that's what we're working on. Thank you.
Council Rancourt?
I was going to report on the ordinance committee. We met yesterday. It seems like a long time ago, but it was only yesterday. And we will be reporting out to the council a policy on prohibition of tobacco use on the beaches. We hope that the first reading will be on March 1st, the public hearing on March 15th, and the second reading on April 6th. We are planning as we heard, a pesticide workshop on March 29th, assuming we can get all of the experts on pesticides and organic products there to give us a presentation. And that meeting will be joint with the Conservation Commission.
Council Wood?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The subcommittee chairs of the Wentworth Building Committee met this evening at 6 o'clock and kind of did some summary as to what's been going on. So look for some additional information. I know that the Wentworth Building Committee will be in front of us, first meeting in March.
March 2.
March 2, thanks. So that's moving quite swiftly and I think well. And I think I'd like to mention again that last night, when we had our goals workshop, the council appears to be unanimous in in stating their number one goal for this year, which is support for New Wentworth. So I think that that's an important message in of itself, and I'm confident that by stating that, by taking that position, all of us will be at ease and comfortable in going forward to send that same message to our constituents in the hope that a referendum will be passed this fall. CPIC is meeting Friday, and we'll discuss, among other things, the aquifer overlay districts, and thank you for your comments on that, and that's all, Madam Chair.
Council Alquist?
EcoMaine, we had a regular board meeting. I think things are well. I have a full report to give. I'll make it available to everybody, but for the Finance Committee, I wanted to do that. I turned it over to Tom. I asked him to put a little simple kind of a spreadsheet together so we could all look at that. Garbage is down, recycling is up, basically, and things seem to be well over there. I'll talk to the members of the Finance Committee before we leave tonight, and hopefully we'll have a meeting by the end of this month to talk about some different issues, and certainly we'll inform everybody when that's going to be. I can assure you it'll be early in the morning, so that's what we like to do. So things will start heating up with the Finance Committee.
That starts March 22nd. the
Yeah,
regular
it
finance.
does. But we need to have our monthly, we're committed to have monthly meetings to talk about specific issues, and that's what
Council Hobart?
Housing Alliance will be meeting again the first Thursday end of the month, which will be March 3rd at 6:30. They are putting the finishing touches of getting some information together for a presentation. I believe they're doing a PowerPoint, if I'm not mistaken, presentation that they're putting together for the council. That's it for me.
Council Sullivan?
I have no reports.
We had the meeting of the Senior WOW Advisory Board on the 15th. On the 22nd, which is next Tuesday, we are going to be having an open house from 10 to 11 for the Senior 55-plus program to encourage membership. With membership, seniors can get things like a 15% discount at Walgreens, and there's a couple other businesses that are involved in that. And certainly the trips and things and the newsletter, they get the newsletter, because we're not sending the newsletter out to everybody now, but it's a $10 membership per year, and they get discounts on all the trips if they're a member. And so we're having that open house the 22nd, which is Tuesday the 22nd. Energy Committee met on the 7th. We are still working on the action plan, but I don't know, we should have an action plan maybe to the council within probably by April. I was hoping before then, but I think maybe by our April meeting. Our next meeting is on the 17th. It's 7:30 in the morning, and that's our major project, is working on the action plan. And the second major project the Energy Committee is working on, and Tom and I met with Debbie Atwood and Seth Murray yesterday, with MGEA, the Maine Green Energy Alliance, that, they will be winding down towards the end of the month with that project. And we got a report from them as to where they were in the process, so that the transition will be there, and we'll be able to provide the information for those that may be in the middle of the process, unlike Ms. Corthell, who has completed her energy upgrade. And so that's going to be one of our major topics. And then the second thing is to continue working on that action plan. Okay, Town Manager's report.
Yes, I'll try to be brief. Council talked about it at some length last evening, but I'll just mention it again this evening. The town did do a citizen satisfaction survey. Very quickly, we random surveyed about 15% of households in town. For those of the keeping track, that was about 1,320 households that we contacted. We did that by way of a postcard invitation to an online survey. And of those invited, we had about 246 folks take the time to actually respond to the survey. It was about 19% response rate, which isn't bad. There's a lot of good data, but I'll try to provide a couple of highlights. There were some general questions on satisfaction, kind of overall quality of life, and I'm pleased to report that 97% of those that responded were either satisfied or very satisfied to that question. A number of departments, including fire and police and dispatch related to that, ranked very, very high, in the mid to high 90s in terms of satisfaction rates, as did the library. There were a couple of areas that ranked low. Our efforts in economic development, our street lighting, pedestrian safety. Some of those aren't really surprises to any of us, but they're very good indications as to where we can spend our attention and perhaps money in the future. All of those results, the details, are available on the website. If anyone wants to spend some time looking at the particular questions and then the actual responses to those questions, by all means do that. As regards budget, Friday was the deadline for departments to submit budgets to me. I have nearly all of them in. And it's only now that I'm able to get a full appreciation as I assemble all of them together and appreciate the kind of order of magnitude. So I'm pleased to hear Councilor Arquist talk about the Finance Committee needing to gear up. I think I will be looking for some advice as we move forward, and certainly before I propose the budget to Council. There's been some mixed messages from Augusta based on the governor's biennial budget proposal. On one hand, there's a pretty significant reduction proposed for municipal revenue sharing in the order of 35% reduction, while at the same time, there's a modest increase for general purpose aid to education, 2.6% this year and 2.1% the following year. Frankly, given our experience over the last couple of years, any increase in GPA is welcome news. But you'll see, we have some significant challenges going forward. I guess on a lighter side, Tony and I have talked for some time. The council has made a practice to publish the procedures for addressing council on every agenda. That takes a full page. We wonder if it would be acceptable if we put a couple of signs very clearly posted here in chambers, fix them to the wall so folks can see them. They're certainly available on the website as well, but we'd like to get away from the practice of printing this on every single agenda. We don't need to make that decision tonight, but we throw that out there as a way to frankly save some money. Be at least one piece of paper every agenda we prepare.
Make it so.
And lastly, just remind you, a couple of meetings, perhaps Judy mentioned it, I drifted off there for a moment. Tomorrow night, there's a meeting on wholesale energy. We're testing a concept, if you will, be a tri-community approach for entering the wholesale energy, electric market, if you will, to benefit our residents and small businesses. Actually, it's at 7 p.m. at Cape Elizabeth Town Hall. And your colleagues from South Portland and Cape Elizabeth will be there, and you'll all be hearing it for the first time. The three managers will be interested in getting some initial reactions, and this is just the start of the conversation. In the last meeting I want to make you aware of, next Wednesday, that's the 23rd, 7 p.m. here in council chambers, we're convening a public meeting to solicit input on the Soldiers Monument that's located in Dunston. That monument was located there at town expense, I believe in 1913 or 14. Has a lot of history and a lot of significance in the community. And really, as a result of our efforts to improve the intersections, it's come up time and time again in that conversation. So we're really interested in understanding what people think about that, whether it's something that we could relocate. If so, what would be an appropriate location? So we've done a fair amount of outreach already. It'll be 7 p.m. on Wednesday, the 23rd. Outreach with folks that we've kind of stumbled across, but we're really trying to take the next step by having a public meeting. Local press has done a great job of helping publicize the issue, the question, and we're really anxious to see what people think. So please come out and give us your thoughts in that regard.
Council member comments. Council Elkins? Council Hobart?
I just wanted to congratulate, so I learned, my son participates in youth wrestling through community service, and the coach had mentioned that Michael Sear from our high school wrestling team took first place at the state championship this year, and that's pretty significant. It's the first time a Scarborough student has done so, so congratulations, and you've done us proud.
Council Sullivan?
Just one thing. I think it was as I did 4 years ago with Town Manager Owens. Now, I've heard that we're going to be probably losing funding for LIHEAP and home heating programs. And I want to look into maybe finding some alternatives for funding for some of our very low-income residents and our seniors, so they don't go cold during the winter. With heating prices rising and funding drying up, I think that we probably ought to start looking into it. And I'll be meeting with the manager on that.
Good, thank you. Wood?
Just real quick, Chief Thurlow is still here. I'm not sure why, but since you are, I think it's important to note, town manager already mentioned it but I don't think he went far enough. That survey, there were a couple real high percentages of satisfaction. Library was 96%. But it still was below the fire department and rescue folks at 97.7%. So quite significant. Although I'm hoping that we can continue surveying our citizenry and asking them how we're doing and what ways we're not only good at, but where we can improve. This is a great testimony to how our citizens feel about our fire and rescue folks. So I'm sure it's a direct result of your leadership, so thank you. And I chimed in on the Civil War Monument. I think that'll be a great discussion, and it's not all about, in fact, if it was just about improving an intersection, I don't think, I would certainly not be all that excited, but I've always thought that that monument, how beautiful it is, et cetera, and what it really means and all that to everybody, it just seems to be always in a place that really doesn't expose it enough. The intersection is designed in such a manner that you really don't get an opportunity to recognize that monument and take it in. And the fact that we purchased the Scarborough Signs property to give us greater latitude and opportunity to improve that intersection, I think gives us a great opportunity to keep that statue at Dunstan and maybe even at a 45 and whatnot, where everybody can enjoy that statue. So that's just a thought, and I appreciate the opportunity to have a larger discussion on the matter. Thank you.
Counselor Rancourt?
Thank you. I'm just going to say one thing, and I know, Mike, this wasn't an oversight by you, but I'm going to also throw in that we had a 95% notice to our town clerk.
Yes, you're right.
Of approval of the services from the town clerk's office.
Thank
So hats off to Tody and her staff. And that's it for me tonight.
Counselor DeAndrea?
Two things. I jumped into the 21st, 22nd, whatever century we're in, and I got a Facebook page for folks who are interested in following what I do on the town council, Karen for Scarborough, so visit me on my Facebook page. And as usual, there are free gun safety locks at the police department, which Chief Moulton informs me is open 24 hours a day.
One of the other things I wanted to remind folks of, the chamber dinner is March 1st at 5:30, and if you haven't responded to that, make sure that you do. The other thing, I always like to say something about some of our longtime residents who have passed away and we've not met for a while, and just to mention a few of those. Elise Minor, condolences out to the families of all of these folks. Richard Googins, lifelong resident of Scarborough. Bob Sanford, Stuart Sewell, whose family, a lot of his children live in the town, and John Rico, one of his daughters is Marsha Risbera. So my condolences go out to all of those families. I think that's it.
Madam Chair, I move that we order number 1114 to request an executive session pursuant to Title I of MRSA, Section 5046C, regarding a real estate matter,
Not to return to.
not to return to public session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?